It's here, the final of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational, with Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi playing the chess of their life. But who will be the winner? We hope you're ready for some drama. Welcome to the final of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational.
Grandmaster. Great commander.
Magnus Carlsen will be angry. He was knocked out in the semi-finals yesterday. This is the second major in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. The winner, one of these two, will take home $60,000 and qualify directly for the tour final. Now, to take us through this final, Women's Grandmaster Houska and Grandmaster David Howell. And David is allowed to say that we are a little bit surprised with the two finalists.
Yeah, I don't think any of the fans at home could have predicted this matchup in the final, especially Jan Nepomniachtchi maybe having overcome the world champion yesterday in dramatic circumstances.
Yeah, but these two players, Jovanka, Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi, they truly are playing the chess of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the main reason is because both are in serious training for the candidates match, that tournament that is going to happen at the end of April. And of course, they are in form, they are sharp, and they are also in fighting mood. I can see that the Twitter war has begun, and Jan Nepomniachtchi struck first with his tweet that was always two. There are no more, no less, a master and an apprentice. And of course, he is quoting his beloved Yoda. And who is the master? Well, Jan Nepomniachtchi thinks there is only one.
Yeah. Well, he maybe thinks he's the favorite then, being the master, but who does the world think is the favorite among these two?
Well, it's bad news for Nepomniachtchi, actually, because Chess24 conducted a poll on their Instagram, and the followers of Chess24 decided that Anish Giri is the big favorite. 68% of followers voted for him. And also, they believe that Magnus Carlsen would defeat Wesley So in the battle for third place.
All right. That's also today. We do have a very, very cool day of chess ahead of us. Let's take a look at the schedule. There will be 4 games in the final first match. And, well, if we have someone on 2.5 points after 3, it's going to be finished after 3. But this is only the first match in the final. We know there's 2 matches, also one tomorrow. And we're also going to have something really, really exciting for you today. The Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge with the second celebrity, Mr. Cuba Gooding Jr. That's going to be so much fun. And we will also later be joined by Ginger GM. But obviously, it is all about the final today. But it is the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. So we are talking a lot about Magnus Carlsen now. The next chapter in the story about him will be after the first game. He started playing chess when he was only 4 years old, became a grandmaster at 13, and at 22, he became the 16th chess world champion.
This was a larger-than-life experience. You have this exotic feel, the smells, the noise. It's so overwhelming. And together with hundreds of journalists, it was such an mesmerizing experience.
A team of grandmasters knows everything about Magnus Carlsen.
And they're off.
I think I said after the match that, well, now I can die.
All right, so we're going to have more about this intriguing story after the first game. Magnus Carlsen, it is the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. So, David, do you think it's specifically hard for him to be knocked out in the semi-finals in this one?
Yeah, he would have found it heartbreaking. He was very disappointed in his interview yesterday because he knows it was a story of missed chances in that semi-final. He had the opportunities. He could be here today in the final. Instead, he's playing for third place, and he's got to pick himself up and find that motivation to beat Wesley So who's been such a difficult opponent for him in the past.
Yeah. So not playing the chess of his life in this tournament, Magnus Carlsen, he was playing fantastic chess in this 2013 World Championship match. And it is about great chess games in the quiz of the day, Ivanka.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are asking everyone in our question of the day, what is your favorite chess game? And the prize, well, this is a bumper prize, and it's been brought to us by Opera. And get this, Kai. I have to hold on to the edge of my seat because this is super exciting. The winner wins a C3 Sicilian Night of Chessable course, 1 year Chessable Pro membership. If that's not enough, 1 year Chess24 Premium membership, and then 1 year Magnus Trainer membership. I mean, that's absolutely
yeah. And then in 1 year,
amazing.
you're going to participate in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour, basically.
Exactly. I mean, you're just going to have a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips. And yeah, you can tweet your answer using the hashtag #ChessChamps. And if you can, send us your pictures. We absolutely love to see them.
All right. Well, do join in. That's going to be so much fun to hear your stories and what chess games you really like today. Let's take a look back at what happened yesterday. Magnus Carlsen, he lost the first match in the semi-finals against Jan Nepomniachtchi, but on day 2, he was able to make an insane comeback.
Wow. Okay, I'm speechless. White's last move, giving up a pawn. He's just given away his extra pawn.
It was a tense semi-final match between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. In Game 2, it dawned on the world champion that he might not be in the finals of his own invitational tournament.
Personally, I think I would struggle to find that winning move now.
No, I mean, the first move that you're thinking about is the checks. You're looking at the captures.
Well, he finds it.
Finds it.
And
wow. Showing great form.
After 1 draw and 1 loss, Magnus fought back from the brink, winning games 3 and 4.
15 seconds for Jan Nepomniachtchi to find this move.
And it's not found it.
Wow. Nepomniachtchi made a move with 1 second left. Look, Black's about to make a new queen, but queen for only a rook and a pawn. And the key thing is Black has enough pawns left to win. 30 seconds left. There we go. Nepomniachtchi resigns. Magnus, all of his previous play was justified. White's rook at the bottom of the board is just going to bring itself up, align itself with the other rook, and that's game over. The black bishop will fall. Nepomniachtchi, he's about to resign, I think. There we go.
Wow.
Nepomniachtchi just gives up.
Wow, 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 wow. Magnus Carlsen in a must-win situation with 2 games to go. And he wins both of those games.
In the tie-breaks, the speedy Russian won his spot in the finals to meet Anish Giri.
He's tried one.
He mouth-slipped again. He's lost his queen, and Nepomniachtchi wins.
What is your feelings right now after winning this in tie-breaks?
Clearly today it was a lottery, and I was the one who got the winning ticket. When one player has nothing to lose and another player has everything to lose, yeah, normally a miracle comes here, yeah?
Yeah, I was obviously happy to get to the Blitz, but I still had sort of a iffy feeling because I knew that the job was far from done. Congrats to Jan and wish him best of luck in the finals.
And here we have it. After quarterfinals and then semi-finals, Magnus Carlsen losing the second Blitz game and Jan Nepomniachtchi being the winner of the semi-final match. And the other one, Anish Giri, was able to win both of the matches and he knocked out Wesley So. And here we have it. The final will be between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri. It's the first time both of these are in a Meltwater Champions Chess Tour final. And David, how will it be decided?
The final will be decided over 2 days, a best-of-4 game match on each day. If after these 2 days we see the sides on 1 match apiece, then we will head to tie-breaks, Blitz and Armageddon chess, where time will be slashed. The final, though, it starts with Rapid.
All right, so in a format like this, I have to ask you right away, who is the favorite? Who do you hold as favorite, Jovanka?
I have to say, between the two, I think it's been Anish Giri that's really impressed me. You know, he was absolutely blistering in the preliminaries, and he just really taken all his opponents apart. I mean, I was super impressed with what he did to Wesley So. And you have to remember, Wesley So has won 2 tour events in the past. So I'm absolutely impressed. He's never got as far as this. And yeah, I think Anish is the favourite for me.
But Jan Nepomniachtchi, we named him the Russian bear yesterday, David. Knocking out Magnus Carlsen, it seems nothing affects him.
Yeah, the Russian bear, the speed demon. We saw it in his interviews. He wasn't satisfied with just beating Magnus Carlsen. He wants more, and he holds himself to such high standards. I wouldn't be surprised if he does get his way past Anish Giri. He's also very experienced. We shouldn't forget Nepomniachtchi. He is capable.
But he has to get back past Anish Giri, who is playing the best chess of his entire life. And playing great chess, he now has to answer a question that he really doesn't like to answer. What will it actually mean to win this tournament?
I should probably care about tournament victories because people around me seem to care about.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why. Because I mean, honestly, yes, as I told you, it's how it is. I mean, I'm happy. I'm unhappy with this last game, but happy with many things, and just my process, it just never stops. Every day I wake up, I turn on my chess software, I look at new ideas, I prepare, then I play tournament, then I go back again, and it's it's continuous thing, and whatever happens, just the machine will keep on moving. So for me, it doesn't affect anything actually. But people around me will be probably happier if I win, and then let's. Obviously, the whole purpose, of course, is to win. Yeah, that's obviously that's the whole goal of everything. But I mean that some things are under your control and some are outside. But I think I will have a good shot. I'm curious, very curious who it will be. I mean, it's one thing to play Jan, who is great, of course, but it's another story if you play Magnus. So we'll see about that.
And this was before Anish Giri could see Jan Nepomniachtchi being the winner of that semi-final, and it is now these two players up against each other. Anish Giri sitting in the Netherlands. It's 5 o'clock for him when the final starts. For Jan Nepomniachtchi, a little bit later in Moscow. It's going to be 7 o'clock for him in the evening when the final starts. And listening to Anish Giri here, David, is that the fact that he's not that used to winning tournaments?
Yeah, actually, maybe the one criticism of Anish Giri's whole career is that he has struggled on that final step of winning tournaments. Magnus Carlsen has teased him about it in the past before. Anish Giri, he's always there or thereabouts, but when the chips are down, he does fall at that final hurdle. I think he's come first place in a super tournament only once, and that was a shared title. We saw it in Tata Steel as well. In January, he failed. He lost in the Armageddon. Yeah. So he needs to overcome his personal demons and make that breakthrough. Yeah,
he's going to be hungry for a tournament victory, do you think, Jovanka?
Definitely, because this is going to set the mood for that all-important candidates tournament that is going to resume at the end of April. And if Anish wins, then, okay, he is triumphant. He will set him in a really good mood. And you also have to remember that in the last candidates tournament that they played in at the beginning, Nepomniachtchi beat Anish. So Anish will be looking for revenge. It's a very powerful motivator, that.
All right, but we have mentioned it several times. Both of these players are playing the chess of their lives, David. We do know Jan Nepomniachtchi, he's on his all-time high rating. That's in classical chess. But what does it look like between these two in rapid chess?
Yeah, in rapid chess, as we see in front of us, Anish Giri, he's only ranked number 25 in the world. Slightly surprising for such a superstar. Jan Nepomniachtchi, however, is ranked number 9 in the world. He does have pedigree. He also once came second in the World Rapid Championship. So his results traditionally have been slightly better than Anish Giri's, also with a higher rating there.
But they haven't faced each other too many times in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. Look at this.
Yeah, that's right. Only 4 games against each other, only in the preliminary stage. They've never faced each other in the nitty-gritty, in those knockout stages. So this is going to be a real first for them. And scores are tied right now with only 1 win apiece. Either side could take it. So close to call.
But you did mention, Jovanka, it wasn't the candidates. Last year, when it was started, Giri lost to Nepomniachtchi.
Yes.
And I think Giri, he only had 1 loss in the preliminaries.
That's right, to Nepomniachtchi.
And that was to Nepomniachtchi.
Yeah.
So is this maybe the worst possible opponent for Giri in this final?
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
It's always, I think, every chess player, you have that bogeyman, you have someone you struggle against, someone is your kryptonite, and for Giri, he's going to try and prove that that isn't Nepomniachtchi. He's going to hope it isn't 3 times in a row in 3 big important games.
It's getting close now, only seconds until the first game in the first match in the final. What will the players, and maybe especially Anish, who's not too used to being in these final situations, what do you think his nerves will be like now?
I mean, I think most players, they would be struggling with nerves. But Anish, whatever he's doing is working for him. We heard it in the past. He didn't expect to win this tournament. He didn't expect to get so deep into it. And now being here in the final, he's going to try and, well, he's going to hope that he can approach it in the same way with minimum kind of pressure on himself, just playing freely, playing with confidence. And he looks pretty confident right now, just cleaning those glasses, getting ready for the action.
And the glasses are on. And are you surprised, Jovanka, to see what shirt Jan Nepomniachtchi is wearing?
Well, no. I mean, I do hope that, you know, once over the board chess resumes, that this lucky shirt thing that the players are doing can... well, OK, David.
Yeah, one of my favourite openings, the C3 Sicilian. I've been playing this since birth, pretty much. And Anish Giri, he's gone for one of the most popular lines. So he did start with his king's pawn earlier on. Jan Nepomniachtchi countered in his favourite way. The most dynamic way to play against the king's pawn opening is the Sicilian. And Anish Giri, he's gone into this line. It's pretty well respected for white. It's maybe not the most critical way, the most direct way of trying to fight against the Sicilian, but it does have a decent reputation. Personally, I've used this opening myself against, for example, Garry Kasparov in a training match. This putting white's knight on the edge of the board as well. It's not to be recommended usually, but that knight is destined to jump into a more active square. This position, very well known, very popular, and who's the better prepared player? Who has done their homework better? Anish Giri has played up to this point instantly. I think on the flip side, Nepomniachtchi, there was no way he could have predicted that Anish Giri would play into this opening. And yeah, I personally haven't seen Anish Giri do this before. Jan Nepomniachtchi, though, has he been prepared? Has he studied this opening? He's blitzed up to this point, but now Nepomniachtchi is spending a bit of time for the first occasion in this game. A bit of tension here. Black's queen is also in the middle of the board, so that queen is a target. That is why Nepomniachtchi is thinking right now the black queen could come under fire if Nepomniachtchi isn't careful. And that's one of the most important things in chess, keeping your queen safe. Nepomniachtchi, the onus is on him, on how to develop, how to get the black king into safety, how to retreat the black queen when the time comes. Just a few questions that Nepomniachtchi is taking a bit of time out to answer now.
All right. Anish Giri with the white pieces in this one, and that is because he scored the better of these two in the preliminary, so he will always have that advantage of choosing colors if we get to tie breaks and stuff like that. Yeah,
definitely a big advantage if it comes down to tie breaks. The current position, white has a huge threat, however. I think we have to bring up the analysis board because in this position, white has... the black queen retreated. White temporarily sacrificed a piece after pawn takes pawn, allowing this pawn to capture the bishop on the next move because white jumped forward with his knight, creating a threat and a trap. If black gets greedy and takes this bishop, then we see what's known as a family fork, a royal fork here. The king is attacked with check, the queen is attacked, and the rook is attacked in the corner. This knight is going to win the game on its own. That's why Nepomniachtchi, in this position, he couldn't allow the knight to penetrate into his camp. He had to step his queen back and cover this square. And now we did see this knight no longer jumping forward. It did jump back and capture a pawn in the centre, and that knight has been traded. This last move, I don't think is the most popular for black. I think in this position, the most often seen move is to bring black's other knight into the middle of the board. Instead, black captured, and white now has a supremely strong bishop in the middle of the board. This bishop, it's hard to get rid of it. Look, it's aiming both sides. It's aiming towards this side, and if the black king castles on the right side of the board, it's going to be a target. So white's bishop now is incredibly strong. I think Anish Giri, he's had a successful opening. It's looking good for white, ahead in development as well.
Now, I do see that Anish with the white pieces is sort of clearing the way for his king on both sides.
Yes.
Only one piece on the queen on this side and the bishop on this side. So what side should we expect him to castle?
Good question, Kaya. I mean, you've pretty much nailed the most important thing that Anish Giri has to work out over the next few moves. I would be very tempted to castle towards that left side of the board because for black, there's only one safe way to castle this one. Only one side which has full pawn protection. So black is guaranteed to castle on the right side. If Anish is feeling very ambitious, he'll castle towards the left and throw all his pawns forward towards the black king. he doesn't need to do that. If he wants to play safer, just kind of with this long-term stable advantage, then he'll just castle on the same side as black, castle towards that right side, the king side. And yeah, meanwhile, Nepomniachtchi, he's going to start realizing that he did not anticipate this position, and therefore he has struggled so far. And that's why he's having a think. He just needs to get that black king to safety. That's priority number one. You can fight for the center later. Look at that white bishop there. It's so good, Jovanka.
I have to say, actually, just checking the database and checking the statistics, it's heavily in White's favour. So it's a little bit of an odd choice by Nepomniachtchi to choose an opening variation like that, where the odds are so balanced for White. Yeah, I mean, but he's got a great pedigree, actually. Vishwanathan Anand has played this with White, Wesley So as well, Wang Hao, Jan Christoph Duda, Volikitin, it just goes on. But no Howells on my database.
No Howells, because my opponents, they normally choose better variations than this to fight against the C3 Sicilian when they're black. Look at those two white bishops, by the way. They are pointing towards that right side of the board. It's as if Anish Giri, he's daring black to castle, and he does. Nepomniachtchi castling into it, castling into the danger.
Wow.
That's a brave move. Okay, Kaya, I think, I think the question, well, I don't know, the question that you asked, it's still in play. Okay, he moves his queen. Is Anish Giri lining up, castling towards the left side of the board? If he does it...
Would you do that, David?
I think I would.
Would you just go queen side?
Anish Giri,
what's it going to be?
Yeah, he's very aware of his fans. He knows what the fans are wanting right now. They want to castle on that queen side. And there he goes.
Does it! We have a queen side castle.
Anish Giri, yeah, that's so principled. I mean, he's going for it right now. He's going for that win, and look, White's king sidesteps once more, but it's looking great for Anish Giri.
Okay, David, what do you think about this choice by Anish Giri? What does it tell us about his attitude now?
I mean, he's showing no fear already at this point. We did talk about nerves, but maybe getting in the way. He hasn't really won too many super tournaments in the past, but... Yep, he's blitzed up to this point. It's still 16 minutes on the clock for Anish Giri. He is not worrying about anything right now. He's just looking for the best moves. And, OK, Nepomniachtchi knows that maybe black is in a bit of trouble. So he has to launch a counter-attack before it's too late. Black pushing a pawn here. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see Nepomniachtchi's plan with the last move. Black just pushing this pawn. But the problem is, what next? Yes, you can push the pawn one square further. For example, if White just centralizes a rook, you can push this pawn one square further, but that's as far as you'll go. White will just block it up. If you ever push a pawn forward, you just lose a pawn. It will take black so many moves to get any pieces to support an attack. Black's only playing with one queen on this side of the board, no backup. And meanwhile, look at White's pieces. These are pretty much the perfect pieces in chess. They're all centralized. They all control so many squares. I mean, especially these two bishops. I think these guys will do the dirty work later. They will aim towards that black king, and it looks dominant for White right now.
Yeah, it looks totally dominant. I completely agree with you there, David. The only thing I have is how is White going to continue the attack? Because obviously, that is the move I really wanted you to show. And
push these pawns.
Exactly.
And
if you notice, Black has actually pushed one of their pawns on the right side, which we call the king side, one step forward, which means...
This one.
Yeah, exactly. Which means that the opening point, the point where White's pawn will come into contact with the black pawn, is actually a lot less. So the square is, can you highlight the square? And then we can see that it takes actually White 2 moves to get there.
Yeah, White will just push a pawn forward, this one, and use this as a hook to open things up. Exactly.
We call that kind of a hook, just as David said. And it's definitely a very, very dangerous idea, because if you can imagine a position where the two bishops are firing on all cylinders, then we throw in a white rook, and then 3 is the magic number. And let's not discount the possibilities of the queen getting into the action. So absolutely critical time for Nepomniachtchi. I mean, how is he going to stop this?
Yeah, what would you do here as Anish Giri, actually, would you push the pawn immediately? Would you just, forget about bringing the rook to the centre? Because maybe if you push a pawn, maybe the rook wants to be on this line, aiming towards the black king.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't necessarily focused on the centre. I was thinking about moves like, OK, this one didn't enter my radar. I was actually thinking of the knight jumping into the centre to support pawn push. But yeah, wow. Oh, David, can you make sense of this move?
I'm shocked by this last move by Nishikori, to be honest. He's going for this black rook in the corner. This black rook attacked. Nepomniachtchi immediately moved it. But the problem is, what next? How do you get to this black rook? Meanwhile, you do always allow the opportunity of this bishop being captured. This bishop, we said it was beautiful. You don't really want to allow that. Maybe Nishikori, his idea is to jump forward with his knight and to threaten jumping in once more. For example, if black gets careless, then the knight will jump forward, attacking the queen and attacking the black rook. This must be Nishikori's plan, but I don't really like it. It feels as if, in the current position, he's getting distracted from the fact he should be attacking the black king instead. Oh. And, OK, it's not bad, but it's maybe not the most direct way of playing this position.
Mm-hmm. He's aggressive, though, Nishikori. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is what the position demands. It demands outright violence. And there you can see David hit the nail on the head. The knight has come into the centre, and now there is a very dangerous attack on the board. The threat is to come in with the knight and just fork the queen and the rook, just as David and the bishop. I hadn't spotted that one. And it's going to be... Well, OK, what would you do if you were Nepomniachtchi? Would you simply capture the bishop, or...?
I'm not so sure. I don't think there's time to capture that bishop. If black plays knight takes bishop right now, then white will continue with that threat that I just highlighted a moment ago. White will jump in with the knight and attack the black queen, attack the black rook, and winning material. And there we see it. The computer, Stockfish, thinks there's only one move for black to keep the balance right now, and that is to move the bishop to cover the knight's entry square, for black's bishop to enter the long diagonal. Every other move here, moving the bishop to a different square, moving the rook, that would just give white a huge advantage. Over a +1 advantage would be almost decisive in this type of position, I think. So the move we're looking for, if we bring up the analysis board, the move the computer suggests is this one, the only move to stay in the game for black. You have to put your bishop here and cover this important square that the knight wants to use. So Nepomniachtchi, he has to find this move right now if he wants to maintain the balance, if he wants to avoid giving Nishikori a huge advantage at this early stage.
Wow. Is this one of those not obvious moves to a human, or should he find this one?
No, he should find it. I mean, the only thing is whether he thinks his position is really bad. Because sometimes when you think that your position is just awful and you think, well, desperate times call for desperate measures, let's just do something just to get some activity going, because you have to remember it is a really sharp position. Both sides are gearing up for war. And if Nepomniachtchi thinks, I'm not in a good place, I cannot defend this, then he is going to do anything he can to get activity. And if that means sacrificing material, so be it. So what do you think, David? Do you think he will just go for activity, or do you think he will just calmly make the move you suggested and just go? I
think he'll make that bishop move. I mean, going for something more active would be nice, but I don't see any way for Nepomniachtchi to get really active right now. The white king, it is pretty safe. There's no way to get at it. So you just have to avoid losing material. In any position, I think, if you see your opponent's threat, just unless you can counterattack, it's best to just stop that idea. And here, there's no way for black to counterattack, so preventing white's idea of jumping forward with the knight. I think that's the only remaining option. Nepomniachtchi, maybe not necessarily deciding upon a move here, just trying to evaluate the position in a few moves' time. For example, if the bishop does move, as we suggested, then we might see a trade of bishops. OK, he finds it. A very sensible move. We do see a trade of bishops. And Nepomniachtchi, the reason he was thinking for so long on the last move is he was just trying to evaluate this position. White's knight can still jump forward. It attacks the black queen, but it's only really a one-move idea. There's no immediate follow-up for Giri.
I have a question. So these computers, when they evaluate the positions, like they did for Jan Nepomniachtchi now, are they looking for sort of a way for him to draw the game? Or will they be looking for the best way to win the game?
I think they're just always looking for the best move. So often they'll say that one side has the advantage. Usually that just means that one side is creating threats or one side has the better pawn structure long term. I mean, if it's a +2, +3, then it means there's actually something winning immediately. But for the opponent's moves, they'll just be looking for the best way to defend or the best way to fight back. For the space, for the structure.
Because sometimes, the best move to give yourself the best possibility for a win will maybe be not the best move, but something that will surprise maybe the opponent.
Exactly. So sometimes the best move from a human point of view won't be the best from a computer standpoint. And Yeah, I mean, that's one of the trickiest things in chess when we're learning. We don't want to look at the computer valuation all the time. These players, I think, when they were learning, they were very much with a board, with a book. You need to understand the rules first before understanding when and when not to trust the computer. Because it is tricky. Computers, they're good, but yeah, they don't explain the plans. They just give you a move and the evaluation. That's sometimes not enough.
Yeah, and especially it's the case if you're losing, the computer will just simply try to minimize the loss and perhaps give you a hopeless position. But, you know, when in practical terms, the best thing to do is just throw caution to the wind and create chaos on the board, which the computer, being a magnificent beast, can absolutely see everything and see, OK, this is refuted. But it doesn't think about the whole psychological element that maybe it's actually complicated or maybe the human will start to feel afraid. I mean, this is the thing with computer chess, is just perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think, you know, in computer championships, they even have to program it to play very openings that are not popular or they're not in the mainstream.
Well, yeah, because there actually is a computer world championship.
Yes, there is. And they play hundreds and hundreds of games against each other, and it's just perfection. But, you know, they do have certain things that to stop the game just petering out into a draw. Because
who is the computer world champion? Is it Stockfish that we are using here?
It has been Stockfish in the past. I don't think it is right now.
I don't think it is. Is it
might be Lila Zero.
Lila Zero?
Lila Zero is more of a neural network. Stockfish is a man-made program. But, yeah, we need to check that. Yeah, it's fascinating watching these computer games, though. Sometimes they will take on an opening, then the two computers, they'll play the same opening, but one with white, one with black. So sometimes the opening is regarded as just completely lost for black, but then the computers, they'll make it playable. They make it look fully acceptable. So, yeah, very different type of chess, though, computer chess. Meanwhile, Anish Giri does lift his rook up the board. Bit of a strange one, maybe. I thought it was time to activate the other rook first, or maybe start pushing those pawns towards the black king, as we mentioned. But Anish Giri plays a flexible move, bringing his rook up the board, maybe clearing a square, clearing some space for his other rook to join it along an open line.
Very multi-purpose move. Like either you control the centre, or if you're feeling a little bit ambitious, you can swing your rook across, do that's called roving rook, right? And, yeah, see what you can get up to on the right side of the board. What kind of games are your favourite games? Because we do have a quiz of the day where we're asking everyone what is their favourite game. Yeah, so anyone who wants to enter, please tweet us using the hashtag ChessChamps. And we really love to see pictures, so please, if you can, send them to us. So, David, your favourite game?
Oh, my favourite game.
It's difficult. There's so many, right?
I think for most of us, most humans, we always love those games with lots of sacrifices because they're so unexpected and they add the risk factor, and it's always more dramatic that way. But
have you ever played any games like that where you've had a king hunt? Or...
I don't know. I've played some cool games, but I wouldn't say they're objectively perfect or anything. There was a game I played against the Dutch international master a few years ago. But that was very much just one spectacular idea rather than like a series of amazing moves. And, yeah, I don't think my best game is the best I've ever seen. But out of the classics, I mean, I think we'll see a game a bit later on between Dubov and Svana. I think that's one of my favourites, to be honest. I know that lots of people, they say Kasparov against Topalov from Vaikanze.
Yeah, that was very good. It was Kasparov's Immortal.
Yes.
I mean, you have to say any of the Immortals are worth checking out because they're all rather beautiful. And, yeah. How
about yourself, Jovanka? What's your favourite chess game of all time?
You know, for a long time, actually, it was the boring games. You know, the ones where Tigran, Petrosian and Karpov, they just, like, stopped the opponent's plan because I thought it took a lot of subtlety. But I do think that we should go back to the chess before I answer the question because I can see that the bar has shot up and I saw David change his posture immediately. He sat up and he was like, whoa, what happened here?
What is happening, David?
I think that Jan Nepomniachtchi has maybe missed Anish Giri's threat. Jan Nepomniachtchi's just pushed a pawn trying to get to the white king, but now white has an interesting move. I'm not sure it's winning. It's still very complicated. So Anish Giri, he'll have to spend a lot of time trying to work this out. But as we see below the players' cameras there, the computer agrees with me. There is one move that's much stronger than all the others for white right now. but its consequences are murky. It's very sharp, very risky, and that's because it involves a piece sacrifice. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see black has just pushed a pawn forward. If Anish Giri is feeling maybe he wants to play safety first chess, he'll just block this. He'll push forward. He won't allow any trades on this side of the board. And this is completely fine for white. We see it's this computer's second best suggestion to block up this side of the board. But if Anish Giri wants to go aggressive after this pawn push, and he's played aggressive moves so far, then he might consider knight takes pawn, sacrificing to open up the black king. If the black king now takes, then this is pretty much game over. White will jump in with the queen. Suddenly, a bit of teamwork. Queen and rook. I mean, this black king only has one safe square to go to. It has to go back, and suddenly queen takes pawn. And at the very minimum, you can capture this knight. Maybe you can flick in a check first. Maybe you can flick in a check on this square. But at the very least, you can capture this knight, and it looks like white has a big attack. Maybe actually checking first is the key, because wherever the king goes, next move, look, the final piece will enter the attack, and the black king trapped and stranded in the middle of the board. This looks winning almost for Anish Giri. So if he does play this knight takes pawn move, we will see chaos. Suddenly, Nepomniachtchi is going to have to fight for survival.
Wow.
And
so we are looking for this move by Anish Giri now, and he finds it.
He plays it.
Wow.
Let's see what the players are looking like on the camera. Because
Is this instant reply by Nepomniachtchi? You know, he is not nicknamed the speed demon for nothing. He's just simply captured the pawn, and yeah, well, his king is going to be in tatters. Let's just say that. You know, knight takes. But OK, this is really, really sharp, actually, because what's happening here, David? Can white simply just capture a pawn with check?
Yeah. So we do see two moves suggested by the computer there. White has two moves to find. Actually, if he doesn't find these two moves, Anish Giri, then black is the one who's in charge. Black will be winning. Luckily for Anish, those two moves are probably the most obvious ones. As Jovanka mentions, white can actually capture a pawn with check. With his knight attacking the black king.
Show it?
Let's show it. Maybe we can keep an eye on the players as well, just in case there are any big reactions. So in this position, white's knight has jumped in, has won a pawn. He can move it again with tempo, taking this pawn check. The pawn cannot capture because this pawn is pinned. The white rook pinning this pawn to the black king. The king has to sidestep, maybe towards this side. It feels a bit risky going into the corner. And now I think Anish Giri has to capture this pawn. I'm not sure which way. Maybe with the rook, maybe with the bishop. Probably I would be tempted to capture with the bishop just because you gain a bit of time against the queen. And meanwhile, Anish Giri, 2 pawns up. His knight looks a bit odd, though, and that's the only potential problem. In the current position, if he doesn't take this pawn, then the only other move to maintain white's advantage and not let black win is to actually capture this pawn with the rook. And this is less obvious. As I mentioned, it's tempting to capture with the bishop, but actually capturing with the rook here is the better move because you challenge black's rook, and now after rook takes rook, wherever the queen goes, you can jump back with the knight. And it looks like white is in charge because black's king is just a bit more open than white's right now. White has won this important pawn, but the game goes on. Black can start getting greedy as well. So this type of position, very sharp. Maybe white can even sacrifice. Anything can happen. It's complete chaos. But Anish Giri, in the current position, he has to find either rook takes pawn or knight takes pawn check. Those are the 2 key moves for white right now.
All right, it's looking great for Anish Giri in the first game, in the first match of the final. And I want to mention that it's also looking very good for Magnus Carlsen in the first game in the battle for the 3rd place against Wesley. So, looks on the bar that Magnus is winning this first game. So, yeah, look at that. We can see it on the bottom of the screen. Magnus Carlsen, the bar is all the way over to his side. So maybe his mood will get better if he gets a few wins today.
I think he will be cheered. A little bit more cheerful today. I mean, his interview yesterday was really emotional. I mean, I felt so sad for him.
Of course, and it is at his own tournament. It is a major. He's still trying to win one of these Champions Chess Tour tournaments.
Right, totally. You know, like you say, it is his own tournament, and he's not at the party to celebrate. That sucks.
But he does have an opportunity now to get that revenge against Wesley. So after losing 2 finals to him, at least winning the battle for 3rd place will mean something. And it is looking good for him in the first game, just as it is for Anish Giri.
Yeah, I took a sneak peek at that game by Magnus. He played a move on move 4 that I've never seen before in my career.
In move 4?
Move 4. I'm not sure whether it was a mouse slip or a moment of genius or something, but Magnus, he played incredible idea on move 4, and yeah, just 10, 15 moves later, he's completely winning. It looks like he's about to checkmate Wesley So.
Wow.
Wow.
So maybe we'll have some time to just go over that game later. I would actually love that.
Yeah, that's, I mean, Magnus, maybe it's just helped him just to relax a bit, knowing that, OK, he can't win the tournament, but now the stakes are less high, the pressure's off, and yeah, good start for Magnus Carlsen there.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Anish Giri, he's still thinking, and he does play knight takes pawn, one of the 2 key moves that we highlighted. Nepomniachtchi reacts immediately, and now Anish, he captures with the white rook. Nepomniachtchi looks confused.
Oh, and the bar is confused.
Yes. We did mention that White's using the white rook to take that pawn was one of the best moves on the last turn. But suddenly, maybe it's less good because White's knight, although it's kind of captured 2 pawns, it is actually trapped on the side of the board. White's knight has no retreat squares. So there is some danger. Will Anish Giri end up losing his knight on the edge of the board?
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that. I had even played bishop takes pawn on my board just to test out what was going to happen. And yeah, rook takes pawn didn't really figure into my radar just because of that moment. But let's dive into the position and let's see, is the knight trapped?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Is there danger? I mean, I just love this kind of complicated chess where every single move matters. So
for example, if the Black's rook is under attack right now from White's rook. Let's say he captures, because time is everything. I think White has to capture with the bishop to gain time against the Black queen. Otherwise, the knight would drop. And now the key move for Black maybe is to... OK,
we're going to see it. We're going to see it on the board.
The key move for Black, let's see it. He has to move his queen. I would personally protect this rook. I don't like having weak, unprotected, undefended pieces in my camp. So I would move this queen across 1 square just to keep an eye on this rook. If the Black queen goes to the wrong square, for example, OK, there's 2 moves here which are better than all the others. But if it goes to the wrong square, for example, if it gets greedy to try and take this knight, we will see Anish Giri's idea to move his bishop to capture this knight. And at the end, there's a check. And the loose rook drops off next move. That's why you have to keep your pieces protected. The move I would play personally is just to shuffle across 1 square, defend the rook, and now this knight has no retreat squares. What is Anish Giri planning here? I think his kind of cunning plan might be to bring his queen forward and try to threaten checkmate. The Black king almost trapped, but now... Nepomniachtchi, I think he can simply capture this knight, or even better, maybe drop the queen back, exchange off this queen, and then win White's knight at the end of things. He plays a move. I
don't like it. I don't like that move, David, because yes, it protects the rook, but it allows White to now introduce a new piece into the attack. Yeah,
White can now, either now or on the next move, bring the rook across and gain time against the Black queen. I think Nepomniachtchi's idea after this move is to actually either drop his queen to this square or maybe to this one. So that's why we see the computer does suggest, instead of allowing your bishop to be kind of semi-pinned here, you have to use your bishop first, jump forward and capture this knight, also opening up the idea of a nasty check. And this move looks pretty good for White, but it is quite a scary one to play. It's committal because suddenly the opponent's rook and bishop are lining up against this pawn. So Anish Giri, I mean, the big question for him, will he find this move? It's not an obvious one. Bishop takes knight right now. That's the only move that gives him the advantage. The more natural move, I think, bring the rook across, would lead to a balanced position. This is the one that Nepomniachtchi is expecting, though, bringing the rook across. So bishop takes knight would be a surprise for Nepomniachtchi, and it takes courage for Giri, but it will give White a big advantage.
Yeah. No, absolutely, David. That is a really bold move to take that knight. It's not instinctive as well, you know, because you're simply playing into Black's hands. But I mean, shall we show the reason why it's so good? It's just that, you know, I just love these kind of positions where it's just follow the checks. So I think the reason why it's so good is because after bishop takes knight, Black will have to go bishop takes bishop, and now we can get checking. So the queen can check, and now the Black king has to step forward. And now we check with the knight, and the imprisoned knight is out, and the king moves.
I don't know.
Put it anywhere. Yeah, exactly. And now I can take your bishop.
Yeah, now you take the bishop, and all you need to do is account.
Exactly.
5 pawns against 3 pawns. White is 2 pawns ahead, and Black has a weak king, so White should win this game. I think that's why Anish Giri, I mean, the reason he's paused here is because he's seen this move. Chess players, the first thing we look for in any position are checks and captures. This bishop move is a capture. It forces black's reply. So it is possible to calculate the answer. Look at Nishigiri's face as well, leaning forward, focused. He's working out the consequences of this check. I think Nepomniachtchi's only saving grace is potentially to block with this bishop. And it's still very complicated, this position. But white does have time to retreat his knight. So looking good for Giri. Will he find this key move? Will he find bishop takes knight right now?
Yeah, he has to override those instincts to kind of not calculate everything and just kind of play the most natural, most friendly move that your hand just really wants to automatically play. But, you know, this is what you have to train on. You have to train on on your checks, your captures and your attacks. And once you get that into kind of like automatic mode, then it just really kind of clicks into place and you immediately improve. And talking about improvement, OK, we'll deal with it now.
OK,
so he's actually...
It has happened.
Wow.
Actually, we do reach that position that I pointed out just at the very end there of the analysis. White did go for that check. He did find a way to retreat his knight. So now that white has saved his knight, he's 2 pawns up, and Nishigiri with 2 extra pawns. And remember as well, queen and knight are the ideal attacking combo. If white can coordinate the queen and knight, if he can maybe trade off the rooks as well later on, then white should just be winning this game. Nepomniachtchi, he has to play for tricks now. He has to get to the white king. That's the only way he will save this game, Nepomniachtchi. OK, and then we do see the best moves. The top computer suggestions are to move the black rook. There's a few squares. They're all viable. But the black rook is kind of eyed up by that white queen right now. It should move, it should relocate itself. And the best move, actually, is to attack the white queen with the black rook.
And Magnus Carlsen, he has won that first game in the battle for third place against Wesley. So apparently it's a very spectacular game. So we'll have David take us through that fantastic game when this one is done. And I have to say, they're spending quite a lot of time in this one. Anish, only 2 minutes left on his clock. Nepomniachtchi a little bit more, but are we seeing the nerves really coming into play here? Yeah,
I think especially over the last few moves. Anish Giri, I can't fault his play. He's found some really interesting ideas, and he's been brave with his moves, but it has taken him a lot of time. So, yep, a little bit of nerves, maybe just slowing him down slightly, but it hasn't affected his actual moves on the board, and that's the key thing right now. Having 2 minutes on the clock, it should be sufficient to play this position because lots of trades have happened, and the more it gets simplified, the more white's 2 extra pawns will come to decide the game. They will start to make their mark, and that's why Nepomniachtchi's thinking right now. He realises he's in a little bit of trouble. It's not game over. There's still some chances because white's king is not entirely safe either. But Nepomniachtchi, he is the one, kind of, the burden's on him now to justify his 2-pawn deficit. Wow. And, OK, he does move with his rook, attacking the white queen. We did see that that was the computer's top suggestion, and the queen does sidestep. So what now, then? He must have got a clear plan for the next move, then. Probably. Because he would, you know, he knew that Anish would move his queen, right? Yeah, and he knew he would have moved it there as well. I think that was the only safe square, really. If white's queen had gone to another square, then it wouldn't have kept an eye on the black bishop, so black also possibly would come over and give check and then take the white knight, but he couldn't because he had to keep an eye on his bishop. So, yep, you're right, Kaya, he had to have foreseen that. He does play relatively quickly, a king move, maybe not the move that kind of he wanted to play, but it does at least step out of a pin along that top rank. And you can perhaps release the queen for a move, you know, because there are some ideas in the air, especially revolving around the white king, because the white king isn't especially safe. It's standing exposed on a diagonal, and if you look at the 2 pawns in front, you can kind of see it's a scenario where the king could perhaps get mated on the back rank. Yep. Those are the things that, you know, you have to be very positive about your position. You're thinking, well, whilst the queens are still on the board, the danger is that there is still hope. Yeah, if we bring up the analysis board just to illustrate Jovanka's point, for example, here, if white gets careless, actually, the first move that I would play is just to push my pawn up to defend my knight. You don't want to allow any potential checks, attacking the king and attacking the knight, winning a piece. So I would just defend this knight. OK, Anish Giri does this in a different way, but that doesn't change the fact that Jovanka, you mentioned, maybe Black will be tempted to give a check and drop his queen down. And the threat now is to bring the rook the whole way down and catch this this white king in the corner.
So say, for instance, here, white is like, I don't know what you're doing. I'm just going to, just make some random move. Then the rook comes down.
Yeah, and back rank checkmate, the king caught behind its own pawns. So this is the type of thing Nepomniachtchi is aiming for. But Anish Giri... OK, we do see this maybe happen on the board. Anish Giri, if this happens, maybe the safest thing to do here would be to keep things simple, just push a pawn, create some breathing space for your king. If you want to play super safe, then you bring your rook across and kind of keep this king nicely protected. But now, wow, a sneaky, sneaky threat by Jan Nepomniachtchi after giving this check. He brings his queen back. Look at this. At the moment, there's a bit of tension here. If white gets careless again and just pushes a pawn, then suddenly, check. It looks like a blunder, losing the rook, but suddenly this diagonal is opened up and black wins the opponent's queen. So every side creating threats right now. Black is threatening to win the white queen indirectly, so white should move this, well, he has to move this piece right now. Anish Giri surely won't miss that attack.
40 seconds
I
left on the clock
wonder
for
whether
Anish.
he's going to get sneaky and try to kind of out-sneak...
How would you out-sneak Nepomniachtchi?
By moving my knight.
To this square.
Yes.
Oh, that is very sneaky. Attacking the queen and rook takes knight is impossible because of queen takes queen.
20 seconds
Jovanka,
for
that
Anish.
is very sneaky. OK, the current position, 20 seconds. Let's go back to the players' cameras because is Anish showing signs of stress here with only 15 seconds left on the clock?
Yeah, let's check them out. OK, so he's certainly done a safety-first approach. I quite like it, but it does allow one thing, that the bishop now has moved from a really passive square, and now it's on the most perfect diagonal that it can be. It can be on the long diagonal, and it's pointing at a pawn. And suddenly, I'm thinking Nepomniachtchi's position is bad, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, he's fighting back. At least he has chances, and white now, I did mention this move a few moments ago. It's very much the type of move you don't want to have to play, but sometimes needs must. And white's rook now playing a purely passive role, defending a pawn near the white king. It feels like Anish Giri, he's gone into kind of retreat mode.
5 seconds.
OK, wow, that is... Look at Nepomniachtchi's face. He's surprised by that last one by Anish Giri. Yes, he needs to create some space for his king, but that is really playing with fire, Anish Giri. Suddenly, that white pawn could become a target. If you imagine black's rook, if it's not currently able to attack the white queen, but if it can sidestep and drop itself onto that B line, suddenly it has so many targets. White's king is in huge trouble right now. Still no immediate threat, no immediate way to kind of break through for Nepomniachtchi, but Anish Giri with 16 seconds and a horribly weak king. The last few moves have gone against him for sure. I think he just shouldn't have allowed black's bishop to activate itself. Suddenly, black is in the ascendancy. Ignore what the computer says. Black is the one creating threats right now. And he drops his queen back. That is to line up with the rook. So the rook now wants to step across one square to attack the white queen. And OK, Nepomniachtchi frowning, maybe underestimating that last move by white. That's a very nice idea by Anish Giri, just putting his king on a light square. Note that note that black's bishop is on dark squares, so you can't leave your king on a dark square as well. So Anish Giri, he's getting ready to put everything on the light squares. He's getting ready to bring his knight over as well, to push a pawn onto a light square. Anish Giri consolidating. I don't like what Nepomniachtchi did, kind of forcing Anish Giri to find the right plan. Sometimes you have to keep your opponent guessing, give them a huge amount of choice, but Nepomniachtchi, he kind of forced white to put his queen on a better square, gave white time to improve the white king. OK, Nepomniachtchi, he just made pretty much a one-move threat, and it didn't really work, so he needs to find a new idea right now. Yeah, Anish Giri, I said it was going in the wrong direction for him. Those last two moves he will have been happy with, though, and he's back up to almost 30 seconds.
Yes, but still, 30 seconds does mean the clock is ticking down and there isn't much time. And when there isn't much time, that induces one thing and one thing only, panic. And I don't know, I do really like what Anish has done, but at the same time, I can see it going wrong for him in a kind of quite severe way. OK, so I personally would start now harassing the white queen.
Yep, it's tempting to harass that white queen, and we do see the computer suggestions. Actually, the computer wants to drop the black rook down and start attacking a pawn.
Yeah.
But, OK, the second best move is to attack the white queen.
Well, OK, this is not a move that I actually wanted to see on the board. I mean, what is Nepomniachtchi doing? He's 2 pawns down. He needs to create chaos. I mean, what is the king doing there? Can white now simply just make some moves?
Yep.
OK, I love this next move by Anish. And now all you're going to do is sidestep with the rook and start harassing the black king. This is really bad turn of events.
Yeah, I mean, that move by Nepomniachtchi, it was just pure panic or pure inertia. He didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to change anything. But instead, he had to, I mean, going back with the king, that king wants to be towards the centre if it gets to an endgame. That king wasn't a target. So Nepomniachtchi essentially just throwing away a move, just giving Anish a free move to do something useful, and Anish has put pawns on light squares. Look, all of white's pieces and pawns on that left side of the board, they're all on light squares. That is instructive, everyone. If your opponent has a dark square bishop, put everything on light squares. The black bishop now is hitting thin air. It was such a powerful piece like 5 moves ago, but now that black bishop, it's just superfluous. It doesn't have any point.
Yes.
And look at this, Anish Giri, he's going active with his rook. OK, the black queen eyeing up one of white's pawns down there on that right side, so Anish keeps everything nice and safe.
Exactly. Everything on the light squares. I just absolutely love it. And what we can expect now is we're going to perhaps expect Anish just to do what I kind of call David Howell strategy, which is just to wait and see, just make a few moves and then slowly start to improve the position. Because you don't need to make anything committal until you've built up time on the clock.
Yeah, and Anish is building time on the clock. He's up to 45 seconds now. Remember, a few moves ago, it looked like the white king was under fire. Anish down to 6 seconds at one point, but now he's up to 45. He's making moves, very simple moves, keeping everything protected, everything on light squares. Anish Giri, he's using that kind of strategic eye that he has just to consolidate. And remember, still a 2-pawn advantage for white. Nepomniachtchi, it feels like he's running out of plans. His clock is ticking down. He keeps creating these one-move threats. They keep getting refuted. They're just not working simply, and then it's back to square one for him. I mean, I'm impressed by Nepomniachtchi's poker face. That's the one thing I will say, because usually in such situations when he knows that he's in trouble, he's quite expressive. This time, he's finally starting to frown, but this time, big trouble for black now. There's simply no useful move, and the reason the computer says plus 2.5 for white is because white has 2 extra pawns. If the queens disappear, if the rooks disappear, it's just game over.
Right, exactly, David. And if you look at who's controlling the lines, I mean, it's just going to be white. And Nepomniachtchi is just sidestepping with his king. OK, but this is like he's just waiting for the axe to fall.
Look at that, Jovanka. The final pawn that was on a dark square has now pushed up. Everything for white is on a light square.
Wow.
It's as if he's playing checkers, but I know checkers is all on dark squares, but he's as if he's playing checkers. That is really nice strategy from Anish Giri. The black bishop simply doesn't know what to do. And there we see the rooks do disappear. So queen and knight usually outmatch queen and bishop. There is some small danger if black's able to line up his queen and bishop along the same diagonal.
Yeah.
But Anish Giri, he should have this covered. Look, he goes to try and trade off his knight for the bishop.
Yeah, also really importantly, he covers that square that you want, that maybe Nepomniachtchi really wanted to align the queen and the bishop on the diagonal together and try to pester Giri on the dark squares. But calm response by Anish.
Yep.
Love it.
Calm. Yep. I would not necessarily have given black this pass pawn. Black actually has a pass pawn in the centre of the board. And also, remember, Magnus Carlsen against Jan Nepomniachtchi yesterday and the day before in their semi-finals. They had so many queen endgames. Nepomniachtchi always did well in those queen endgames. Nepomniachtchi, he's very good at manoeuvring the queens, using the passed pawns, using the queens to support those passed pawns. And here, the black bishop currently dominating the white knight. It's not over yet. Nepomniachtchi, expert in these queen endgames. He still has a chance. White's knight, nicely positioned, but slightly offside right now. And OK, it's time to start running with the pawns for Anish Giri. He's coordinated everything well. He's still winning, but the problem is he has to not allow any checks against that white king. White's king still slightly exposed if the black queen can get into that white camp. So I'm not writing off Nepomniachtchi yet.
The bar is certainly not liking Anish's last move.
Yeah. I think it's not just the last move. It's maybe the series of moves. Maybe he just aimed for that simplicity a bit too soon, aiming to trade off those rooks when he didn't need to. OK, Anish Giri now 3 pawns up. But is it enough? Maybe he's put his knight on a bad square and now suddenly black is going on the attack. Nepomniachtchi, has he found a miraculous escape? I'm trying to work out how white can save his king now.
Can you retreat with the queen? Can you simply just step diagonally to the queen and then
I think you might get checkmated, Jovanka, if you are not careful. Black's got 2 threats. One, to drop the queen down 1 square and give check to the white king. The other one is to bring the bishop down and threaten checkmate. And Anish Giri, is he just going for the draw here?
No, no way. He has 1 more check here, so he can check and centralise his queen. Okay,
white will centralise his queen, but the problem is the knight is just not participating in the game right now.
Yeah.
The white queen and white knight, they're just 1 move too slow to coordinate and threaten the black king. Meanwhile, the white king is the real target. I think Jan Nepomniachtchi's found a genius way to save this game.
Wow, that would be absolutely unbelievable.
But is there any chances for Nepo to win this?
Yes.
Well, David says yes. If he's careless with the queen and doesn't take the draw, then
Anish gets too ambitious now.
Yes.
But it'll be so heartbreaking for Anish if he knows that he was winning 3 pawns up and he might have...
But it's very tempting here just to simply just move 2 squares to the left with the queen.
And 10 seconds.
And, well, the king can go on the dark squares and that will be it. OK, he's going to give a few more checks.
There if white had gone for that one,
OK.
Jovanka. Maybe not lost, but OK. This is the second time we've reached this position. The position has repeated itself. If Anish Giri continues to give checks with his queen, the game is a draw. The problem is the white king is too exposed right now. Black still has threats against that white king. He just needs his knight to be able to defend, but it's too far away from the white king right now. OK, Anish Giri, he's going for the draw. He's given a check, and if he gives check now, 3rd time we've reached this position, the game is a draw.
OK, wow. The first game in the final between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri is a draw, but it's not a dull draw. This was a dramatic game. It definitely could have ended with a win, I mean, for both of them, but it was looking really good for Anish Giri, who was just sitting down by the computer. He wanted to look over this. Do you think he's disappointed now, David?
Yeah, for sure, Anish Giri. I mean, he was in charge throughout the whole game. He found some really nice ideas. He was the one who initiated all the kind of complications, the whole kind of melee. And in the end, just when victory was within his grasp, 2 extra pawns, he rushed slightly. And Nepomniachtchi came up with a fantastic idea to draw. It all started in this position with Anish Giri. If we do a count, he's 2 pawns up. White has 2 extra pawns, but he rushed here. He played rook takes rook, maybe unnecessarily giving black a passed pawn in the middle of the board. It wasn't so bad for Anish. He's still 2 pawns up. He still should be winning this game. But in this position, it started to go slightly wrong. And especially here, this move was simply not improving the white position. And now Nepomniachtchi went on the attack. Anish Giri went 3 pawns up. But the reason he had to take a draw in this position is because black has 2 huge threats. One of them is to drop the queen down and give check to the white king. And the other, maybe more pertinent threat, is to bring the bishop down. For example, if white continues making a move, then suddenly the bishop and queen line up. Checkmate is coming. The white king is almost trapped. This is why Anish Giri in the final position had to take the draw. We saw him give a few checks and there was no way to checkmate. There was no way to continue and the game repeated itself.
The first game ended with a draw in 14 minutes. We're going to have the second game in the final between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri. Still 3 games to go in the first match in the final. And then later on in a few minutes, we're going to show you the next chapter in the Magnus Carlsen story when he became a world champion. And very exciting, after the next game, we have the next Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge with Cuba Gooding Jr.
Hi, I'm about to challenge the digital version of the world chess champion Magnus Carlsen at age 10. I mean, Claudine! Rude! Will I beat him?
Yeah, this is intense.
Will he demolish me? I didn't see it even coming. When he stole my knight, I was like, what the hell?
Cuba Gooding Jr., what a fantastic person with so much energy. You guys have to look forward to the Celebrity Challenge with him coming up after the next game. All right, but there's not only the final going on, there's also a battle for third place. And you were talking about the first game with Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So being spectacular, and Magnus won it. Could you maybe show us, David, what happened here?
I mean, so many amazing moments just in that one game. Magnus Carlsen back to his best in blistering form. He just wiped the floor with Wesley So in this game. And it all started here in this position, a very traditional opening, King's Pawn opening. We call this the Four Knights. Oh, whoops, because, the Four Knights, because all of the Four Knights have developed themselves. And here, White has many normal moves. You can push this pawn, you can bring your bishop out, obeying all the normal rules of chess. Magnus Carlsen, he shocked the chess world. He shocked Wesley So by pushing a pawn on the corner of the board. Jovanka, have you ever seen this one before? Is this a mouse slip? Personally, I've played this pawn push before. I've moved my pawn 1 square, but Magnus Carlsen pushing it 2 squares. And this did surprise Wesley So. A few moves later, we saw in this position Magnus Carlsen trying to go on the attack, and he came up with another surprising and unusual, shocking move here. This must have thrown Wesley So out of his seat. White bringing his knight deep into the black camp, attacking this rook, trapping his own knight. And a few moves later, we saw this knight sacrificed itself. Check. This is a fork. It has to be captured, this knight. And suddenly, the white queen jumped into the position. Magnus Carlsen, a whole knight down. But as we saw later on, the queen and the bishops combined to deliver checkmate. I just want to show you guys the final position, because look at this. The bishop pinning the black knight, the white queen about to dive into the position, these two guys attacking, and Magnus brought a final attacker into the game. He lifted his rook up the board, bringing it across, and we did see checkmate on the board. Magnus Carlsen gave a check, and actually Wesley So resigned just before he lifted his king and walked into the middle of the board, walked into this checkmate. Wow. Magnus Carlsen, he played like Mikhail Tal there, a series of spectacular sacrifices. And this is Magnus's reaction after, well, just as he's winning this game with a huge smile on his face. Is this just the best way to win a game in a pressured situation, David? Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to bounce back from a setback, from a defeat yesterday. There could have been, that's probably one of the best games he's played in the last 6 months, Magnus Carlsen, and to do it today of all days will feel satisfying. Yeah, he definitely enjoyed himself, Magnus Carlsen. He is ahead in the battle for third place against Wesley So. Now, we're also going to enjoy ourselves with a puzzle today. Simon made a bunch of puzzles, and this is puzzle for day 8.
Hello again, viewers. It's time for my puzzle of the day. Hopefully, you're getting used to these puzzles now, and it's giving you something to get your own grey matter working, should we say. It's one thing watching chess, but you've got to use that knowledge to become a better chess player. Now, these puzzles are also over on Chessable. So if you want to have a look at these ones we've got in the show and some other puzzles, there's a free course there. Now, here we see Daniil Dubov with the white pieces playing against Rasmus Svein in the European Team Championships in 2019. Now, Daniil Dubov, as I'm sure most of you are aware, is a real crowd favorite at the moment, one of my favorite players. He's incredibly imaginative. He's really brave. He's really a leader rather than a follower. A lot of chess players sort of copy established theory, opening ideas. But what I like about Dubov is that he's a creator. He leads the way. He comes up with his own concepts. Very creative player. And this just emphasizes this position here, that creativity. Now, he has the white pieces, and again, it's all about the opponent's king. What is that king doing there? Well, Daniil has chased it down the board, but we've got to finish it off. So have a think how you can finish that king off. In this position, there's no good checks. So the little rule I say, if there's no good checks, look for captures. And then the next thing you should look at, and that's what we want to look at here, is threats. So look at ways you can create deadly threats like checkmate in the position. Even if it allows your opponent to capture something, look for those key moves. And good luck. I'll bring you the answer later on.
And you find this puzzle on Champions Chess Tour Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook, so you can work on it throughout the broadcast. Simon will be with us later to give you the answer. And you actually said, David, that this could be one of the best chess games you've ever seen.
Yeah, for sure. The position that Simon showed, it's kind of the finale after a spectacular game. It's a whole king hunt. If you notice Black's king here, this is the A3 square. It's deep in White's territory, and actually much earlier on in the game, Black had actually castled the king. Black's king, of course, starting in the middle of the board, but the king castled, and then it went on this journey. It literally walked the whole way up the board, and this is kind of the finale, the final blow. And yes, this is the puzzle for you guys at home. How do you get to this Black king? As Simon mentioned, it's all about looking for threats. That's the key, and good luck.
Yep. Good luck, everyone. Now we have arrived at the next chapter in the chess story of Magnus Carlsen. Now, at 22, he became the highest-rated chess player of all time. And a year later, he finally became the 16th world chess champion. But it is a title that weighs heavy on him, and he has struggled ever since to not lose this title.
The World Chess Championship bubble, that's something quite unique. And if it goes too long without, you kind of you start to long to get back there, even though you know that it's very hard, it's very frustrating. It's a kind of a love-hate relationship at a very high level. That's some of his World Championship trophies, small ones from Blitz and Rapid typically, and then some of the major trophies. The 2013 one is not here.
Magnus Carlsen, this is his first World Championship match.
This was a larger-than-life experience. You have this exotic feel, the smells, the noise. It's so overwhelming. And together with hundreds of journalists, it was such an mesmerizing experience.
A team of grandmasters knows everything about Magnus Carlsen.
And they're off.
I think I said after the match that, well, now I can die. We had a nice celebration, and it was a very happy night for everyone involved when he won in the end. But at that point, he was already there mentally in a way. I mean, this was his to win. And it was like a force that we didn't expect to stop.
In every match since that, he's been the defending champion, defending his title. How is it different, those matches?
It's very different, because in the first you have something to achieve that you haven't achieved before. After that, you either repeat or fall back down. And psychologically, that's much more difficult. But here we have the 2014 Sochi World Championship trophy.
That was a little bit more difficult to get motivated for that match. But fortunately, he managed to get motivated and to do the work.
And then 2016?
Yeah.
That was very intense.
Yeah, I think he lost, was it game 8, I think? And they had 7 draws before that.
Magnus felt that against Karyakin, the only acceptable outcome was to win. Not only because he hates to lose, but it was just simply unacceptable to lose. And he was down 1 game at one point.
I think in the first half of the match, he was kind of in a good mood and feeling that, okay, if I just continue to play this well, he will eventually crack at some point and I will get in a win. But then when it didn't happen, he was really frustrated, and he was like second guessing, what am I doing before the games? That's also a sign that you're losing a little bit of your self-confidence.
We went to a restaurant, and someone started to serve some drinks. And it took off a little bit from there. We were depressed, and it was difficult. We didn't know what to talk about when we arrived at the restaurant. But after an hour or something, we were all laughing, and we just had a hilarious evening. And maybe that helped kind of on the nervous system. For I think he won the 10th game, and then from there he was in control.
And then this should be the 2018 one. 2018 Karana, that was a tough one.
he'd had a great year. I hadn't had a great year, and it felt when we were playing like we were equals. And in that sense, like the other matches, it felt like losing is simply not an option. Like it cannot happen. Obviously, that's not an attitude that is good if you want to have an enjoyable experience. But the match in London was a little bit different in that sense. It was an equal match, and if I'd lost it, it would have hurt a great deal. But still, it didn't feel like it was impossible, something that couldn't happen.
We have some more stuff downstairs, but well, Magnus is not really resting on his laurels. It's really always the next tournament is the most important.
Yeah, what is next for Magnus Carlsen, the current world chess champion? He is not in the final in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. He's fighting for third place, but Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi, they are heading into game 2 in the first match in the final. The first one ended up with a draw, so this one is going to be an exciting one with Jan Nepomniachtchi having the white pieces, David. And Anish, he had big chances in the last one, so will he be coming into this disappointed, or do you think he's going to be hungry for more?
I think the old Anish might have been disappointed. This new, modern, mature Anish, he seems focused. He's in the moment. I think Anish will be hungry to take advantage of future chances, which will come.
And Nepomniachtchi with the white pieces. You say, Ivanka, he's never going for the quick draws. He's a fighter. He's playing fantastic chess.
Yes.
So what do we expect in this first white game of his in the final?
Well, he will be, he's quite an understated guy, but, inside he will be absolutely ecstatic that he saved such a losing position. Remember how he was 2 pawns down. So he will be feeling very confident, and he'll be getting ready for the next game. And we're going to see a real battle on our hands, and it's going to be absolutely amazing because both these players have an uncompromising style. They just love to play aggressive chess.
We are waiting for Anish Giri to come to the table for the second game. We do know that both of these players are fighting in the candidates tournament that will resume in exactly 1 month, I think. And they are both looking really good there. One of these two could be the next opponent for Magnus Carlsen in the World Chess Championship that will start in November this year. If it was to be one of these two, David, who's your bet on?
I think Nepomniachtchi in the candidates, I mean, he's got a point more than Anish going into the second half. He has to be the favourite to qualify, but in terms of who would give Magnus a better match, I think, I don't know, actually both of them would give Magnus a better match.
I know.
Right, and Nepomniachtchi, he's showed he can beat Magnus in the past. Okay, meanwhile, Anish Giri choosing the Sicilian Najdorf. Remember, that's one of the prizes for the quiz of the day. Anish Giri's chessable Najdorf course. So he is putting his money where his mouth is, and he is playing the opening that he suggests. And wow, Ivanka, one of the most critical lines of the Najdorf, the poisoned pawn variation.
Ooh. I was going to get Kaya to guess that one.
Sorry.
I wouldn't have guessed it.
Black has grabbed a pawn with his queen. We used to say it was poisoned because it's just so dangerous. Black's queen losing so much time in the process of grabbing that pawn. So Black currently a pawn up, but look at the Black queen misplaced. White's pieces are already primed. They are ready to start attacking. This one it's as if Black is walking a tightrope. I've always felt.
Yes.
I would never even dream of playing this as Black because you have to be so careful.
Vachier-Lagrave and Tata Steel was resoundly, and he was absolutely destroyed by absolutely everyone in this variation. And after that, he's kind of stopped playing it. It was just too dangerous. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Anish will bring to the table. Because you also have to remember they will actually face each other again in 1 month's time. And of course, Anish, being 1 point behind Nepomniachtchi, needs to take that point.
Yeah, I remember when I was growing up, watching the games of English Grandmaster Nigel Short. He used to play the white side of this all the time, give up a pawn and gamble everything on the attack. And, I mean, historically, even before that, there were players, I mean, Fischer, fought out this variation in the past. There were a set of Argentinian players who were kind of using this on a constant basis. Polagaevsky himself also using this line as black. It's so much history behind this opening. And, OK, we do see a set of trades. Black's bishop coming out. Yep, this is still well-known stuff. And Nishikori deep in preparation. I mean, this is interesting because clearly both players, they know this. They've done their homework. They both play the Najdorf as black. But it will come down to a battle of memory, who can remember what they've analysed with the computer, and maybe creativity. Because remember, it's not just what the computer says. If both sides end up memorising the top computer line, it's just going to be a draw. Chess, in the end, is, well, should be a balanced game. It's about finding a way to surprise your opponent first and get them into a position where it's hard for humans to kind of evaluate and hard for them to handle the imbalances, because this position is full of imbalances. The first thing I would do for white, maybe take off that bishop, bring out my light square bishop and get the white king to safety, because black's king will take longer.
Yeah, that is the instinctive move.
Find safety.
Yeah, and exactly. And whilst Nepomniachtchi is thinking about this, let's remind everyone at home that we are running a quiz, and our question of the day is, what is your favourite chess game? And you can tweet your answers using the hashtag #ChessChamps. And of course, we absolutely adore seeing your pictures. But I do have to show you some of our entries. We have one from Mohammed El Ebiri, who says, it's October 17, 1956. Can you start guessing, David? When Donald Byrne faced the great Bobby Fischer in the game known as the Game of the Century. It's when the world has been shaken by the 17th move for black, Bishop E6.
How old is Bobby Fischer here?
He was really young. He was a teenager.
I think this picture, it isn't from that game, but because the position on the board doesn't match with the Game of the Century. But,
wow.
But yeah, in the game that is kind of referred to by Mohammed, Bobby Fischer, he was 13 years old and he sacrificed his queen. He found a series of
I mean, it was absolutely
amazing
brilliant
ideas.
Yeah. And we also have an entry from Jessica that we particularly liked. It says, any game... Oh, no, hang on, that was Michael. OK, so I'll go to Michael. And he says that, let me just read it, 13-year-old Magnus versus Kasparov. Aside from the impressive game, the psychological aspects of the game are second to none. Yeah, that is a very cute picture of Magnus playing Garry Kasparov.
And we had the interview with Magnus' sister Ellen saying that it was so absurd to be there and seeing this 13-year-old Magnus, who wasn't really tall for his age as well, just standing there with Kasparov and all these super grandmasters analysing and...
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great moment, as Michael Landinos points out. It really was fantastic. And I also know, I also have looked at the game and studied the game. Kasparov was a little bit on the back foot as well. And Magnus later kicked himself, actually, for not actually choosing the most critical move. He said, he just didn't believe that he could beat Kasparov.
Wow.
And finally, before we take the move, just want to show you one from Jessica. And Jessica says, any game where there is chaos on the board. And talking about chaos on the board, we should go back to the game because there is indeed chaos on the board. Ooh. Everything is heating up.
Yep, everything is indeed heating up. And Nishikori now, he's looking down towards the left. That's because he's just trying to remember his analysis. Meanwhile, I did mention this is the poisoned pawn variation. White sacrifices a pawn very early on, but white has now regained that pawn. If you look at white's rook, it's one of the most active rooks you'll ever see, especially at move 14. And meanwhile, Nishikori, he's trying to fight against that active rook by bringing his bishop forward. He can't castle yet, Nishikori, but the plan is to get the king to safety. Whoever gets their king to safety first will have the advantage,
and
I
look
feel.
at this image of these two players in the finals. That is so intense. Both of them already in deep, deep concentration, deep calculation here.
Yep, deep memorization, I think, in terms of Nishikori so far. Look at Nishikori's clock time, 16 minutes. He's been playing with confidence probably the whole of this morning. He was just studying openings. He was maybe even going through his own chessable course, revising the lines. Chess, sometimes it's a bit like an exam. Beforehand, if you know what's about to come up, you might as well revise beforehand. And
but I just love this image of these two players. Yesterday there was a game. Yeah, exactly. Because yesterday there was a game with a beautiful pawn structure that I wanted to hang on the wall, and now I just want a picture, that exact picture I want on my wall. Just reminds me of what we think is so mesmerizing about chess. Just two brilliant brains up against each other.
Two big brains, that's right. And Nepomniachtchi, just from his body language, I mean, not looking at the... OK, now he is looking at the screen as soon as I'm about to say it, but for a couple of minutes, he wasn't looking at the screen. And that just says to me that he has studied this position before. He knows he studied it before, but he can't quite remember. It's not fresh in his mind. And in the end, he does move his bishop out, and Anish Giri frowns. So maybe not the move.
It's not the move, David. It definitely is not the move. Actually, what Anish did by capturing the pawn with the bishop was actually totally rare. I mean, the main move is actually to capture that pawn with a pawn. And so what Anish was expecting was that the light squared bishop would actually jump up one square forward and start challenging its counterpart. And instead, well, Nepomniachtchi has taken the game into the realm of the unknown. This is what I love about chess. You know, Anish would have spent hours and hours and hours on this position, but he's surprised, and now he's on his own. And isn't that the great thing?
Yeah, that's a good thing. If your opponent is very well prepared, if you can sense that they're playing every move instantly, if you just get this, this feeling that they know exactly what they're doing, that they've memorized it all before, then sometimes the best thing to do is not look for the best move, look for a good enough move, but that will throw them out of their comfort zone, that will throw them out of their previous preparation. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see why Anish Giri is so deep in thought right now. White bringing the bishop forward to this square, a bit of a passive square. As Jovanka mentions, bringing the bishop one square further was maybe the most well-known move, challenging this black bishop. But, OK, Anish has to find a new idea now. And ideally, he wants to castle his king. The black king wants to castle away to safety, but if you castle the king, you no longer protect this bishop in the middle of the board. White's rook will just snap it off, and White would be winning. That's why Anish Giri, he has to prepare the idea of castling his king by first securing this bishop. Will he do this by moving the bishop back? Will he do it in a different way, maybe kicking the white rook away from this attack? Either way, Anish Giri, he has to find a way to save this bishop because the black king should not stay in the centre much longer. The move that I would be attracted to is possibly bringing the queen back, eyeing up this bishop along the board, or to try and kick this bishop back in a different way, attack it with a pawn. Anish Giri, he's got a lot to think about because White is ready to castle next move. White is ready to get the king to safety, and if Black cannot do the same, then it's going to spell trouble.
Yeah, no, it's certainly such a fiery position, and Nepomniachtchi, I think he's quite satisfied with his move, and I think you get some kind of certain satisfaction or maybe a big sigh of relief after you know that you've kind of tricked your opponent out of his own preparation.
Yeah, I think in practical terms, if your opponent's better prepared than you and you're aware of that, then the only moral victory you can achieve is kind of surprising them in return. The only priority should be to survive the opening stage and outplay them a bit later on. And Nepomniachtchi, he has done that. He's survived the opening stage and he's given Giri a big question to answer.
Yeah. So I would be tempted if I were playing with the black pieces. I mean, this is a totally wild position. It's in a different style than I particularly like. But I would be tempted just to push that pawn forward and attack the bishop. Yep. Just ask the question, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go?
As I mentioned, that was one of the most obvious moves for Black. That white bishop would have to commit itself, and then Giri would buy himself a bit more time to figure out a plan or how to react.
Shall we do a deep dive and have a look?
Okay.
What can Anish do? What is he thinking about? And so we suspect that the first move, David said it was the most natural. It certainly appeals to me as well. Just to attack the bishop by yourself, one move. And the bishop has to relocate itself on the same diagonal. Yeah. So let's put it on a random square.
But the reason you shouldn't kind of maintain this diagonal, or probably shouldn't, is because suddenly you've lost control of this square. Yeah. And suddenly you have to worry about the black queen coming in and giving check. Maybe not immediately, but at least over the next couple of moves, this is a scary idea to allow. So, as you mentioned, Jovanka, where along this diagonal do you drop back to? Do you just drop back one square, maybe? Eye up this pawn in the long term? Yeah,
you have a wealth of choice, don't you? Three choices. I mean, I was actually taking inspiration from you and trying to overprotect my pieces. Yeah, exactly. Just in case Black wanted to defer any decision-making one extra move by moving the rook.
Okay, I guess the most important question, Ivanka, as I mentioned, is how do you ever get castled as Black? How do you deal with this bishop being under fire from the white rook?
Yeah, well, this is why you played as a Sicilian, you know. You're not that fussed about king safety. Okay, well,
we might see this on the board. I think if in doubt, Anish Giri, he'll play a move later, such as queen to this square, get the queens off, and then it doesn't matter that your king is in the middle. It will no longer get checkmated. So, OK, this is the current position. First question is for Nepomniachtchi, how to deal with this bishop being under threat. Next question for Anish Giri. He'll react by trying to get his king to safety.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely some choices for Nepomniachtchi to face. And, well, do you think this is going to become a favourite game?
Quite possibly. Might be our favourite final so far of the tour if the players continue in this fighting spirit, this fighting fashion.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I really didn't expect anything like this at all. But, you know, you have to remember, you kind of said it quite a few times, that Anish Giri has recorded a video series on the night of for chessable. So he is a big expert. But he's also meeting Nepomniachtchi, who's also a huge expert. And one of the disadvantages of recording such a series is that people can compare notes.
Out there in the public domain, all of your ideas.
Well, OK, Anish decided to play my move, which was... it wasn't the most aggressive move. I was just thinking about David's philosophy that no piece should be left unprotected, that you should simply just kind of harmonise everything. But OK, what's to stop Nepomniachtchi from saying, let's exchange queens?
From Giri from saying that.
Giri, yeah.
Yep, I don't think there's anything stopping him from saying that. That's, I mean, I would be, it's not the bravest move in the world, but I would be trying to change those queens immediately. I would be trying to offer that trade because if you can't castle as Black, then the question is what else, simply, and I don't see any other productive idea. White, remember, is ready to castle, and therefore White is slightly ahead in the race for development. And normally, if you're behind in development or if your king is about to get attacked, then trading queens is just a good long-term idea. And we've seen it before in the semi-finals yesterday and in the finals. Nepomniachtchi, he's great in the queen endgames, so get the queens off and head for a different type of endgame. That might be a sensible idea for Giri. I mean, the thing, though, about this opening and the last game as well, that really kind of captures my imagination is just the fact that neither player is caring about the candidates so far. They're not afraid to show their secrets. They're playing their best openings, the most critical openings. I mean, that just shows the prestige of this tournament. They care so much about winning this final. That's their only goal right now. I don't think either of them are thinking about that candidates.
And obviously, they're only going to face each other once more in the candidates. Right. They already played once, and because it is a round-robin format, right? But do you think all the seconds out there and all the players in the candidates will be paying attention to this and the entire Magnus Carlsen Invitational for those players? It's these two, and then it's MVL. Did we have anyone else?
Alexander Grishuk.
Yeah, he wasn't in this one, though, was he?
No, he wasn't in this one, but he was in the previous tour event. So.
But will sort of the coaches and seconds and the players have kept an eye on this tournament? It's only a month until the candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that you can say about the candidates is that Nepomniachtchi will actually be playing with the white pieces against Anish Giri. So, you know, it's very kind of courageous, but at the same time quite a practical approach from Giri, just to go, you know what, let's see what you got against my knight off. Let's take you into the sharpest line that there is and see what you have, and why not? And maybe force Nepo to sort of bring his best, because he also wants to win this tournament, of course, and it's huge money and it's huge prestige, and, you know, qualifying for the tour final. Do you think Nepo has used his best response?
I think all these top players, they normally have kind of a three-tiered opening repertoire. Usually you have ideas in mind in must-win situations. You save openings, your most aggressive openings, for those must-win situations. Sometimes you'll have an opening where, OK, it's kind of geared towards aiming for the draw, safety first. And you'll also have an opening that you just use just to get a position and kind of chance for both sides, and then you play. This, to me, seems like the weapon you'd use in a must-win situation. So Nepomniachtchi, maybe he's given away one of his secrets here, but yeah, maybe he's got a bag of tricks. Maybe he's full of these kind of must-win ideas. And okay, meanwhile, we do see the offer of a trade of queens. And Nepomniachtchi says, yes, you can trade the queens, but on my terms. And that's very instructive. Lots of players I found, well, and myself, when I was young, when I was first learning chess, if I see the opportunity to trade, I would just go for it. I wouldn't think about kind of who gains time in that process, in that transition. Here, Nepomniachtchi steps the knight back, because if the queens are traded in the middle of the board, white will recapture with the knight, and white improves his piece. White gains time with that transition. So a very nice idea there by Nepomniachtchi on the last move. I'm not saying it's the best move, but it would benefit white now, at least slightly, if Anish Giri plays queen takes queen.
And he does it, yes. I mean, I've been very impressed by Anish. I'm impressed by his bravery, and I'm impressed by his preparation and all the new ideas that he's brought to the game. And I do quite like Akshay's comment where he says, why is Tal playing under the name of Anish Giri? Tal, of course, is a former world champion who was famed for his crazy, absolutely insane attacking abilities.
Wait, so Tal died in 92, Anish Giri was born in 94. Do you think Anish is Tal reborn?
Well, I think you have to...
Conspiracy theorists start now.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, meanwhile, we're talking about how impressed we are by Anish. I was impressed by his last move, or his last couple of moves. If we quickly bring up the analysis board, we can see in this position, white did retreat the knight, guarding the queen. I thought Anish Giri wouldn't take this queen. I thought you wait a bit longer, you try and force white to capture on your terms. But nope, Anish Giri took these off. And now the key move. This bishop, which is kind of under fire from the white knight, now dropped itself back to where it came from, its start square, evicting this white rook. And now the white rook no longer targets this bishop. So black can finally castle, and black is happy. Successful opening, I think, by Anish Giri.
Yeah, totally successful. And with a relatively unusual line as well. He didn't even have to play his main ideas in the opening, just something else. And let's count the material. The material is still, it's level.
It's level material. White does have 3 isolated pawns, however, whereas black only has 2 isolated pawns. By isolated pawns, we mean pawns with no other pawns next to them, essentially. So white has 2 isolated pawns on the left side and 1 in the centre. Long term, you want to have as few of those guys as possible because they can become targets for the opponent's pieces.
Yeah.
That's why I slightly prefer black, although in general it should be a relatively balanced position.
So while we're waiting for Nepomniachtchi to respond, let's take a question from Midrin Al-Hadri, who says, what does someone have to do to reach 1500 ELO if they're already rated 1000?
Good question. I mean, great question there. I mean, the first thing I would do is I would just play as much as possible online. For example, you can play on chess24.com. You can find opponents around the same level as yourself. The thing after that, though, is always to analyse those games. Try and look where you went wrong, either with a friend or even talk to your opponent about it. Discuss where things, where the critical moments were. If not, yeah, find a friend, find a coach maybe, as well as playing. Puzzles, I think, are great. They train you, as in our puzzle of the day earlier that Ginger GM showed, they train you to look for these checks and captures. They improve your intuition. The more you look at these things, the better your calculation will become, your visualization. If you start to see maybe 2 moves ahead, 3 moves ahead occasionally, then that will improve your rating no end. And yeah, when I was young, English Grandmaster Nigel Short, he told me tactics are 90% of chess. And that's right. No matter how good your strategy is, in the end, to win games, you have to find that final breakthrough.
Yes.
So working on puzzles and things like that, I think we'll just give that extra edge.
Totally. And, well, luckily our quiz of the day is an amazing prize. It's a monster bundle, and it will be everything to solve anyone's needs in chess. It's like a 1-year premium membership of Chess24, Anish Giri's Chessable Sicilian course, Naidov course, then it's a Chessable Pro membership, and then a Play Magnus 1-year membership. You know, those are the perfect tools.
I actually want to, whoever wins this, let's get that person to give his rating or hers rating on Chess24, and then let's check it a year from now.
Yeah.
Because I bet that person's just going to skyrocket.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, these are tremendous resources available to you. I know in Chessable and Chess24, they have lots and lots of videos that you can watch to improve. Chess24 has a tactic trainers, as does the Play Magnus trainer. And, you know, it's the perfect learning tool, what can I say?
Yeah, definitely. Now, we were actually talking about it earlier today, David.
Yeah.
When was the last time you had like a really big leap in chess that you made lots of progress? Because that must be a long time ago, being on the top level now.
Oh, for me, it was too long ago. I guess the kind of last huge leap I made was just after I left university. So this was going back a few years. It was in 2014. I barely played for 4 years. And then I came back. My next few tournaments were, well, I don't want to say a huge success, but I did quite well. And I jumped up from maybe the low 2,600s to 2,700.
Wow, yeah.
So I entered the elite. I got to top 30 in the world.
That's a huge leap.
Yeah, it was a huge leap. Unfortunately, from there, it's been a bit up and down and up and down.
Well, how about you, Ivanka? I mean, being on that top level, it must be just tiny steps you take all the time, and maybe steps back as well.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of suffered a little bit from the yo-yo effect. You know, I reached a certain level very, very quickly, and then I started needing to take these tiny steps, and it was really annoying because I was breaking I was kind of getting close to 2,500 at least on some tournaments that I had played. And then I had like 3 amazing tournaments and then 3 bad tournaments, and took me back to square one. And I was like, why is this happening? So, I mean, since then, I've kind of suffered a little bit from that. You know, I just, 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. And I'm just like, OK, come on, you know, I've got to make that leap sometime.
Well, how about this game then, David?
Yeah, talking of making leaps, Black's knight did make a leap into the white half of the board, into the white position, attacking one of white's bishops, and therefore that bishop stepped into the centre of the board. And actually, white's bishops now, they mirror Anish Giri's bishops in the last game, in the previous game. This time, it's an endgame, though, or pretty much an endgame. I do expect Anish Giri's first goal to be eliminating one of those 2 white bishops, because we do talk about the bishop pair. Bishops tend to be very powerful when they're both pawns on both sides of the board, especially in endgames. So if Anish Giri, for example, can trade his knight for one of the bishops, or even trade the 2 dark square bishops off, so his own dark square bishop for white's dark square bishop, then I think Anish should be happy. The game should just be balanced. Yeah, I think white, though, he has less risk right now. If he can maintain the bishops long term, he should be in the ascendancy.
But is it winning chances for both players?
Plenty of life left. It's not anywhere near a draw right now. It's just, I think, especially if a pair of bishops come off, if Black can make that trade, then it's just chances for both sides. It will come down to who's maybe more creative or more aggressive, who can play on the front foot in the endgame.
I mean, that white pawn is very far advanced.
Yes.
The black, you know, only 1 square behind it, though. But is that maybe the aim here, to get that queen?
Yep. I think long term, it's about creating passed pawns. Simply, if we bring up the analysis board, we can see, as Kaya mentions, white does have this very far advanced pawn, this very nice pawn, but it has created some weaknesses, because this pawn, although it's far advanced, it can no longer protect the squares behind it, and I mean the squares behind it, or to the side of it, and the square in front of it. That's the key one to blockade, and that's why Anish Giri does blockade this pawn. He also does manage to get these bishops off. Now it's bishop versus knight. This is Bobby Fischer's favourite assortment, the light squared bishop against the knight, and Nepomniachtchi plays a bit of a mysterious move, bringing his rook up to this square, getting attacked. This pawn was a target on a light square, so now it's on a dark square. Anish Giri doing all the right things here. It should be balanced. Yeah, this pawn, somehow, I kind of want to put it back where it came from, because it does block this bishop, the bishop tied down. So usually white would have a small advantage here. I think it's just completely level.
And do you approve of Nepomniachtchi's last move, which is like centralizing the rook? Because, I mean, let's face it, that wasn't the most mobile square for the rook. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can be, and he has conceded an open line, especially when the rook is looking at a pawn that is, to be frank, protected by a knight.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a bit baffled.
Yeah, baffled is a good word for it. Meanwhile, Nepomniachtchi pushes a pawn up 1 square, but it does feel like Anish Giri, he's improved his position enormously. The black rook has found an open line. I think the next thing for black to do is to start bringing the king. Maybe even bring the king to the centre. Try and trap this white rook in the middle of the board. It looks like Anish Giri, he's solved all of his problems. White isn't in trouble because there are no targets in white's position. Black's knight is...
You called it, David.
Okay.
The king is making its bid for freedom. It's going to go into the centre and try to defend the pawn. OK, but, you know, obviously, Nepomniachtchi put his rook there for a reason, and he wants to attack the pawn. So he therefore, OK, I was going to say retreat the bishop.
Yep.
But now, OK, he's doing something else. He is caging the king in. He's saying, nope, you want to come in with the king? That's not possible.
And
OK.
Well, yeah, I mean, Anish must be confident with his position because he's playing so quickly. It's rare to see him play this quickly, and he just wants to eliminate this white rook so that the black king has a path to the centre. Would you take this rook off the board, Jovanka?
No, I wouldn't. I would think about...
Would you dance around with the rook?
Yeah,
I would dance.
I would do the dance. I would do a little shimmy first. Maybe I would sound out whether Anish is happy with the draw. You know, just to see.
Just to see.
And
we could see a draw, for example, if the rooks challenge each other. But if Anish Giri wants to play for a win, then he might use his other rook now to challenge for the open line. Black now has 2 active rooks, whereas white has 1 kind of strangely placed rook. So, yeah, still chances for both sides, but logical play as well from the players. Neither side giving ground at this point, this moment.
What would you do, David? Take the rook?
Yes. I would take those rooks and then I'd bring the white king towards the centre.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't do a bet for this because I'm still like 1-0 down, right? Because Nepomniachtchi says no.
Peter says no.
Exactly. And I do think that your move is going to be seen, though, where Giri is going to step with his left rook and just challenge the white rook on an open line because it's the most natural move on the board.
Indeed. Yep, I expect to see one of the black rooks challenge for that line now that the white rook has just occupied that B line, and still completely balanced chances.
And balanced also in the second game in the battle for 3rd place. Magnus Carlsen won the first game in spectacular fashion. The second one has ended with a draw. So if Magnus wins the next one, the 3rd one, then actually the first match will be over. They will be done for today. They will keep fighting tomorrow. If it is a draw or a win for Wesley, then they will also play that 4th game. Yeah. And we do have a move.
We do have a move. And as predicted, Anish Giri does challenge for that B line. So will we see a rook trade? It's going to be hard for Nepomniachtchi to keep avoiding that. Meanwhile, Anish Giri, look at that air quality. It is...
He's always on the brink there.
He's always on the brink.
On the CO2 level, especially. Just below 1,000, but...
That tends to climb as the day goes on as well. Still, after this game, if it does end in a draw, still 2 more tension-packed games. So he's going to be hoping that the CO2 levels don't affect him. Meanwhile, it is very warm there as well. I'm surprised. I mean, personally, I just can't play when it's that warm. I have to open the windows.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea with having good air quality in the room. I think colder tends to be better for the concentration. I mean, OK, so we have seen a rook trade, and now Nepomniachtchi has moved his rook from the centre to attack the pawn. Of course, Anish doesn't let Nepomniachtchi have that pawn and instead defends it. OK, what are we going to see? Are we going to see the white king make a bid for freedom? Get to the centre, but then it gets in the way of its own rook.
Yep. Both kings could dart towards the centre. White's rook and black's rook both kind of strangely placed right now. They're kind of just kind of looking at each other. There's a hedge in between. It's as if they're neighbours, but they're looking at each other across the garden, and neither of them wants to talk to the other one. But who will give way first? Who will get back into the house first and run away from that tension?
Could you be kind of like... play on both wings? So now I'm thinking, OK, since I do like the idea of running with the king to the centre. OK, and I didn't think about this one. I was going to suggest advancing pawns on the right side of the board just to kind of take some squares away from the knight. But OK, is this just simply Nepo just saying, hey, let's simplify?
I think that's a very ambitious move by Nepomniachtchi. He just wants to kind of improve the scope of the white bishop. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see with this move, actually just before this move, if you look at the white bishop, it's not doing great. It's kind of looking at its own pawn. It's looking at its own pawn down here as well, maybe tied down to the defense of that later on. So why not trade off this pawn, as Nepomniachtchi does? If there is a trade, then maybe the bishop will take back, and now black's king will always be tied down to this guy. This will always be a target later on, and white's bishop, it now has the freedom of the board. I mean, even if white wants to capture with the rook, you could imagine this bishop kind of rerouting itself round to the longest diagonal possible. It's going to control so many squares now that the position has opened up. Bishops love those open positions. Nepomniachtchi, he does go for this, but meanwhile, I mentioned about trades earlier. You only do it on your own terms. Giri, ignoring that, he brings the king forward, and he's allowed this trade. Will he capture back with the knight, improving his knight in the process, in the transition of this capture? Or will he maybe step his king forward and take this pawn later on? This pawn is not running away anytime soon. It will be captured. I think maybe Giri will be tempted to improve his king first before getting greedy and restoring material parity.
All right, this is a slower game, right? Yeah. Calmer before the storm, maybe?
Yes.
Who knows?
It started in dynamic fashion, but both players just equally well prepared. We actually saw it on the first day of the semi-finals when Nepomniachtchi was playing Carlson. When he got caught in a surprise with the white pieces, he was happy to play safe. Well, Nepomniachtchi looked surprised by Giri's choice there. The black king, there's actually a variant of chess called King of the Hill, and the whole aim of that game is to get your king to one of the 4 central squares. Black's king got there first.
He won!
He won. He won the game. But this is not King of the Hill. This is standard chess. And we did see another set of pawn trades. And it's not clear who that favours. But currently, the bishop does look more versatile than that black knight.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, though, yes, the bishop, the light square bishop is versatile, can kind of go between the two sides, but there are no pawns to attack. In order to do that, you need to bring in the king. Difficult things. And, well, Nepomniachtchi steps forward with his own king, and I don't know, I'm not seeing that the position is that ambitious, actually, for both sides.
No, I think especially for black. Black, I mean, with his rook, yes, he's attacking the bishop right now, but once that bishop retreats, the black rook is stuck defending a pawn. So it's doing a defensive job. White's rook is still awkwardly placed, badly placed, but it is at least attacking a black pawn, keeping the black rook tied down. So the status quo is, it's completely balanced, but I would still prefer to be white. Slightly, because you could imagine a scenario where, black, it just gets tied up a bit. And,
Yeah, so right now, if I were to be ambitious, I would be advancing with my pawn on the right. And I would pick up the one, not the most corner pawn, but the one on the light square. I would pick that up, put it 2 squares forward, and...
Okay. He
pushes the corner pawn first.
Same idea.
Yeah,
different execution, different order. So white's just going to try and push all his pawns. The problem is, if you end up pushing pawns on that side, it's likely to see a series of trades, and the more pawns disappear.
Yes.
Okay, Anish Giri does not sit still.
He was playing spoiler, right?
Yeah, he's trying to initiate that pawn trade. You're right, Jovanka, it should just be completely balanced, because black's pawns on dark squares, it's going to be easy to defend them.
Yeah, that's true. But having said that, the white rook has now made its bid for freedom, and the black rook is still tied down because white will simply play check and win the pawn if the black rook steps away. But OK, this is a really funny move. I mean, putting a pawn on a light square, must require some active calculation there.
Yep, committal move by Anish Giri.
Certainly.
And he played it very fast, so he must have figured out that he couldn't sit still any longer. He doesn't want to be passive. He needs to go onto the front foot. He needs to start forcing Nepomniachtchi to worry about king safety. And Nepomniachtchi's king decides it has to step back. Maybe it's time for Anish Giri to start activating his rook right now. The black rook, we mentioned it was passive. It didn't really want to stay that way for long. And there we go. The black rook now has created a huge threat of dropping down the board and attacking the white king, check, and attacking the white bishop at the same time. That double attack would win a piece. So nice move there by Anish Giri. Nepomniachtchi has to... Now he's the one on the defensive. I really like what Anish has done over the last few moves. How can he maintain that initiative, though, that that momentum he's gained? It's not clear. Unfortunately, there's still no way of getting to the white pawns.
There is no way. There's no entry point at all. You know, the rooks and the bishop are doing a great job. OK, so now here, Nepomniachtchi, I guess, could simply offer, like Tanzer might offer a draw by just checking the black king with the rook or the pawn. The black king will have to step back.
I think checking with the rook would have been very dangerous there because black would not step back with the king.
Yes, he would have interfered with the knight. Yeah. Whoops, my bad.
No, but the knight, the black knight was threatening to jump forward, giving check to the white king, forcing the white king onto the back rank where it might even get checkmated. So that's why Nepomniachtchi decides he cannot give any more ground. He has to force that black king back if he can. He gives check with his pawn. So now that pawn structure is completely fixed on that right side of the board. OK. Anishgiri, he plays king of the hill again. He centralises his king. The black king has been looking very good this whole game. And now white tries to do the same. White's king, not as active as black's, but occupying the centre. And Anishgiri, it feels like he's trying to win this one. Yeah. He's the one making things happen over the last few moves. That black knight now is attacking a white pawn, an undefended white pawn on that right side of the board. How will Nepomniachtchi guard against that? A few options that I see, but he does have to be a bit sneaky here. You don't really want to go passive. You can't defend it with your king. You don't want to go passive with your rook defending a pawn either. Rooks are the worst defenders. I think.
Okay, what other options are there? I can't see any other pieces that can protect
you can attack. Right. You can attack the knight.
Best form of defence, counter-attack.
Okay.
Now that knight does capture a pawn, but look, white's rook now has the choice of capturing. Well, it has the opportunity to capture a pawn.
It has to capture a pawn, or.
Yep. You're right. You're right, Kaya.
I did wonder whether he would try to shake things up a little bit and try to capture the other pawn, but no, that's taking risks.
Yeah, I think both sides now, just with one pawn remaining, it shouldn't be enough to win this game. We should be destined to a draw. But with pawns on only one side of the board, knights tend to be better, trickier. I mean, as long as Nepomniachtchi doesn't walk into some kind of double attack, some knight fork, then it should be a draw simply. I expect to see a few checks with the rook, white's king, back and forth, the black rook back and forth, and the position repeat itself. Maybe Nepomniachtchi will offer a trade of rooks here. Whether or not the rooks stay on the board, it shouldn't change the result in the end.
OK, what happens if white's like, no, I'm going to go for gold. I really want to... OK, not anymore. The rook has been offered for trade, and OK, if black simply captures that, then the game should really end in a draw.
Yeah, so the rooks will disappear, and now any scenario where the two pawns disappear is a draw. Neither side will have enough material to checkmate. So even if white gives up the bishop for the black pawn, or even if black gives up the knight for the white pawn, the game should be a draw. I'm hoping we see king versus king at the end to show a real fight, a real battle to the death. But Anishgiri, he's just trying to work out now how to give up the black knight for white's remaining pawn. The only way to win this game for either side is to make a new queen with a pawn. That's why it's all about getting rid of the pawns. You don't care about the pieces as much. There we go. The knight gives check. The knight threatens to take that pawn. Nepomniachtchi does maintain his pawn for now. So black's pawn is about to drop. White's pawn is surviving. So Anishgiri, he needs to find a path to get to that pawn. How's he going to do that, Jovanka?
Well, he's attacked the bishop, which is a very smart move. So, but the bishop will just move. OK, now, definitely. Now he can just simply move his... OK, that's a fantastic square. And now after king takes... OK,
we do see a king and pawn endgame, but the key is it's a corner pawn. So black's king will box in the white king. White's king is actually trapped on that corner now. So white's king is trapped in front of its own pawn, and there's no way to make a queen. We'll see stalemate. White can't make a move, and it's a draw.
So we finally have a stalemate.
Stalemate on the board.
Exciting. All right, the second game is a draw. Jan Nepomniachtchi saying, like, OK, this is OK. We have another draw in the final between Anishgiri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. The third game will be coming up in about 15 minutes. And this one, David, it wasn't as spectacular as the first one.
No, far less spectacular, but equally well played. Neither side made any mistakes in that game, really. No big blunders, no real inaccuracies either. It was just great opening preparation, especially from Anishgiri. He equalised the game and never let it slip. And I think it was just this position. For me, the star move was this one. Black now, Anishgiri, moving the bishop that is under fire from the knight retreating it to kick away white's most active piece. The bishop dropped back, attacking this rook, and when the rook did retreat, Nishikori got his king to safety. As soon as that happened, it signalled that black was fine. He fought on an equal footing for the rest of the game, and the next key point came in this position when, facing the two bishops, he traded one of them off. He offered this trade of bishops, and as we saw, once white had to part with the bishop pair, the game fizzled out towards a draw.
It's an intense final. Nishikori and Jan Nepomniachtchi still tied after 2 games. Can someone win the next one coming up in about 14 minutes? We have launched the Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge, and our second celebrity is the fantastic, the Academy Award winner and director, Cuba Gooding Jr. And we're so excited to have you here, Cuba. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I'm nervous. I'm a little nervous.
Well, I can imagine. And I mean, you must be invited to so many different shows and things. Being on a chess show, is this a first for you?
It's a very first. It's absolutely very first. And I've been spending all morning trying to reduce his age to 2. So that I can get him down to 2. I think I could beat him.
Yeah. Magnus Carlsen was fantastic, even at 10 years old. And I just want to ask you, Cuba, I'm so curious about this, because in Hollywood, I mean, on movie sets, there must be a lot of waiting all the time. And I'm wondering, do you sometimes then see like chessboards and actors and directors playing chess to get just the time to pass?
All the time, all the time. And I only just recently started playing. I did a film called Life of a King, about the true story of this high school in the inner city in Los Angeles who make it to the championships. And they were literally taught by a janitor who was an ex-convict. And it enabled me to learn certain moves, but I still didn't really get into it until I got this Magnus app, and now I can't stop playing it for a week now. I can't turn it off. I've been late for dinners and meetings, and it's really ruined my life, actually.
Do you know any other celebrities that play chess, or you've been trying your wits against?
Well, there's a lot. I know that Tom Cruise plays, and I know that my friend Jack Nicholson plays, but my brother, Omar Gooding, has challenged me every Thanksgiving for as long as I can remember. And I'm going to be ready this year. This Christmas holiday season, I'm going to have to show him what I've learned. So,
fantastic.
Cuba, how would you describe your chess level at the moment? Do you have any goals for this game that you're about to play?
Just not to get beat too fast, you know. Honestly, so I've been watching the lessons part of the Magnus app, and I've seen so many different strategies, and then got a little overwhelmed when they talked about all the moves that you can make after the second or third move. It jumps up to like trillions and quadrillions and options. So I'm trying not to think too much and just play.
Well, I can imagine, though, that both acting and directing must have some similarities with chess, because it's all about focusing for a long time and memory, of course.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of times on a set, your main job is just to answer questions. Everybody has a question. What dress should she wear? What should the furniture look like? What is the lighting that you want? What camera angles do you use? The actors ask, how do you want me to do this? And if you're not decisive and make decisions, even if it's the wrong decision, if you don't make decisions, then everybody kind of loses their way and loses focus. So yeah, it's a lot like chess. When you're trying to strategize a piece, you have to think, all right, if I tell this actor to do this, then that actor's going to do that, and that's the performance I want. It's the same thing with the chess piece. You're waiting for your opponent to make a move, then you're going to respond to that move, and he's going to respond to that move in a way. And the farther you can think into the future, the better you are. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely. Actually, there's a lot of similarities. So, do you think both actors and directors and making movies also can sort of learn something from the chess players, or it would be a good thing for people in your business to practice chess?
Absolutely. It's funny, too, because if you think of what we do, we're in the business of make-believe, which is, you know, magic, sleight of hand, disbelief. And that's all that chess is. Once you can get your opponent to think you're reacting a certain way, but it's completely different than what they thought, you win. So, yeah, I see the similarity there, the connecting tissue there, 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's getting close. So, Ivanka, can you tell us the rules on how this works? The Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge.
The celebrity will play against Magnus, age 10, in the Play Magnus app. Sounds easy, but you have to remember, Magnus, age 10, was a master of tricks. The celebrity will get 2 minutes on the clock, and the goal, of course, is to beat Magnus Carlsen. Now, if this doesn't happen, the next goal is to last for as many moves as possible.
And the reason it's 2 minutes is because in 2014, Magnus Carlsen himself, he was then 23, he played Bill Gates. And Bill Gates lasted 9 moves. And our first celebrity here on this challenge was Sal Khan. He lasted 13 moves. So, Kuba, what is your goal?
Well, it'd be great to get to 2. No, 13 might be good. That's my lucky number, 13. Let's see if we can get there. 14 even. Let's go.
All right. Well, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So here it is, the Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge. All right, Kuba's going to start with the white pieces. David, you're going to commentate.
That's right. So here we go. About to start. Cuba, okay, he opens with his king's pawn. He's looking focused already. He's occupying the center. Solid stuff. He has just lost a pawn in the middle of the board. He will recompose himself though. I mean, still in the balance. Black there, very surprising move, giving the pawn back. He's fighting. Cuba looks like a decent position for white. He needs to guard against the threat though to an important pawn.
Very focused.
He's very focused, and he's been playing fast. That's a good thing. Okay, he looks like he's about to move his queen, but where does he want to move it to? He needs to bring his queen out, maybe attack the black knight in the center of the board. Okay, he's deciding what to do now. He slowed down a bit. He has moved a pawn. We did hear him make a sound there. He realizes that he has lost an important pawn. White's queen under attack, rook under attack as well. It's looking difficult. Okay, he finds a great move, counterattacking against black's bishop. White's queen under threat. He does see it.
I mean, rude!
Yeah, Cuba has walked into a knight fork, so he has just lost his queen. But he's not out of this game. He has to keep playing quickly. Remember, it's about how long he can last as well, not just the position on the board. Magnus 10 is a trickster. He has managed to find some nice tricks.
But he's playing fast now.
Yeah, he's playing fast. He needs to speed up. Only a few seconds left now. Okay. He's lost his rook in the corner of the board.
Yeah, this is intense.
Time to develop your pieces. Move those pieces out, Cuba. Bring out your bishop, bring out your knight. Okay, he pushes a pawn. It's a good move. He's surviving, and he's still playing quickly.
Not looking too happy here.
Not looking too happy, but okay, he's playing fast, and that's the most important thing. He has lost his queen, he has lost a rook, but it's not game over yet. Okay, he moves his king away. He saw that threat instantly.
I think we've lasted longer than 13 moves, so I think this is good news.
Okay, he has to move his king. Okay, the time has run out. Magnus wins. How many moves did he last? That's the big question.
All right, we're going to see how many moves. If you press continue, Kuba, then we're going to see how many moves you lasted.
I don't want to. I don't want to know.
We think it's good news, actually.
Yes.
Is it
16 moves.
16 moves? Congratulations, you're on top of the table.
I feel like a warrior in heaven. Look, I just got beat by a 10-year-old boy. I did more moves than anybody else.
That's fantastic. So David here was commentating on the game. Do you want to sort of hear his verdict, Kuba?
I heard this the last little bit, but I didn't hear before that. What'd you say, Dave?
No, I was impressed. You were playing quickly, you were playing all the sensible moves, but Magnus is a trickster, and he did... Actually, we heard you when he made that knight check, attacking your king and queen at the same time. That was sneaky, right?
I couldn't believe it. I didn't see it even coming. When he stole my knight, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, that was evil.
The other celebrity that lost to 13.
I just wanted to watch. This is Ella that you're doing.
Yeah. So you lasted longer than Salcon. And Bill Gates.
I'm so excited. It's just so exciting that I lasted 16 moves. I don't know what else to say. I like to thank my family for losing 16. I'd like to thank Ella, who I'm doing the charity for, who's has type 1 diabetes. Come on in, Ella, say smile for the people. Come say smile. This is Ella. Yes.
Hi.
There she is.
Oh, is this a future chess player or even a current chess player?
She was teaching me moves yesterday. I would have only made it to 15 if it wasn't for Ella.
Fantastic. So
she's been playing since she was 3. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Well, Kuba, you mentioned it. It is the Magnus Carlsen charity challenge. So the Meltwater Champions Chess Store is donating $5,000 to your charity. And what is that?
Like we were saying, it's the Diabetes Research Institute for finding a cure for type 1 diabetes. And any little bit helps. And one day we'll eradicate this condition completely. So here we are, playing chess for a good cause.
Fantastic. Yep. And you are on top of our celebrity challenge list. So what's going to be your next chess goal then?
To beat him. I'd like to beat him. I don't care how old he is. I'll get him in the crib if I got to. I'll take the pacifier out of his mouth and keep playing till he loses.
Fantastic. Cuba Gooding Jr. coming for Magnus Carlsen, no doubt.
That's right.
It was so much fun having you with us. Thank you so much, Cuba.
Absolutely. No, this is fun. I lost my voice yelling at the game. It's fun.
That's what chess will do you.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
you did well.
Really.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Anytime, guys. Thank you. That was fun.
Bye. A great performance by Cuba Gooding Jr. He's on top of the table. 2 celebrities have done the Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge. 16 moves for Cuba Gooding Jr., 13 moves for Sal Khan. And that's what chess will do to you. Losing your voice, David.
Yeah, losing your voice and occasionally losing to the world champion, even at age 10. But he put up a good fight, and I was impressed by his reaction time. He saw the checks coming, and there were a couple of sneaky moves that he did miss, but in general, with a few more goes, I think he can put up a fight in future.
And we're going to have more celebrities throughout the entire season of Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. So what tips should the next sort of celebrities take with them, Yamanka?
Well, you've got to play fast because it's all about the amount of moves. And also, I'd recommend just develop all your pieces, get your king to safety, and just carry on developing, and you can't go wrong.
All right, this is so much fun. The Magnus Carlsen Celebrity Charity Chess Challenge. We're also having a lot of fun in the final of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. Let's take a look at the standings after 2 games. They have played 2 draws in Hikaru and Jan Nepomniachtchi. So if anyone can win one of those 2 last games, we will have a winner of the first match. Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So are playing for the 3rd place. Magnus with a spectacular win in the first game. They are now currently sitting there playing the 3rd game. I hear rumors Magnus is still being very creative today, David.
Yeah, he definitely has been using all of those remaining creative juices that he wasn't able to show in those semi-finals. And despite the fact that it is a 3rd place playoff, he has been playing some incredible chess. He has not been lacking motivation or anything, Magnus Carlsen, looking back to his best.
And the third game between these two, Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi, it's starting in a few seconds. And it was in the first game where Anish did have those white pieces that we did have quite a spectacular game, Yamanka. So what do you expect from this one?
Well, you know, I expect more of the same from Anish. You know, perhaps he's not going to choose that specific opening because I do think Nepomniachtchi will have been on the phone to his seconds and said, well, you know, what should I play? But, you know, I'm expecting another little tricky sideline.
And we do not see a repeat of that opening from the first game. Anish Giri, as Ivanka predicted, he's done something differently. Here we see the Sicilian defence again, but a slightly different variation of the Sicilian. No more Najdorf, no more C3 Sicilian. This is the Taimanov Sicilian. And here we do see, OK, still very quick play from both sides. And that is quite a rare move on the last turn. White plays knight takes knight, offering that trade. Usually, White delays that slightly. You keep your opponent guessing and only later trade knights off the board. But this time, Anish Giri rushing ahead. And we have seen a trade of pawns, a trade of knights as well. And Anish Giri as well, leaning forward after that last move by Jan Nepomniachtchi, maybe surprised. I mean, Black had three choices there. You could have captured that white knight with two different pawns, or you could capture it with the queen. I think normal is to capture with the pawn towards the centre to control more central squares. Nepomniachtchi right now is only playing with his queen. The black queen has, I mean, she's just left the rest of her army behind at home, asleep, and Anish Giri is going to be trying to punish that. Risky play by Nepomniachtchi at this early stage, but clearly he must have an idea in mind. He must have studied this before. How will Anish Giri react and get his pieces into the game? That's the priority now. Get your king castled. It's an open Sicilian. That means there will be open lines, there will be attacks, and it's all about speed of activity, speed of getting those pieces developed.
Well, castling-wise, this does look like the first game because and he still only has his queen on that side and only has his bishop on other way around on the other side. Do you think we'll have a longside castle here as well?
You might be, you might get your wish, Kaya. Anish Giri, the reason he's paused now for thought is he's just weighing up which side the white king wants to go to. We did see it in the first game. White's king did go across to that queen side, to that left side of the board, and it paid off. He got a great position. OK, this time with his last move, he is pretty much declaring that he's ready now to castle the king to the right. So, sorry, Kaya, you're not going to get your wish, but still promising, though. I mean, look at Black's position. All of the pieces at home, apart from the queen. Nepomniachtchi, he's breaking all the rules here. He's breaking all the kind of conventions that we're taught when we're young. And Anish Giri, he's going to try and get his king to safety and punish that, that concept.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was desperately trying to figure out, because it did remind me of the game that they played against each other in the preliminary section. And there was a knight takes knight, but we actually saw a pawn takes knight. So here, Nepomniachtchi has changed the goalpost. He's doing something completely different. And, you know, look at these two. They are playing such fire on the board stuff, you know, and it's very appropriate because it kind of links in really nicely with our quiz of the day. You know, we are asking everyone, what is your favourite chess game? And we personally love it, don't we, David? Yes. When we have such spectacular, aggressive chess. And, well, we certainly have had some interesting answers. Toretto, he said that one of his favourite games was GM Shanglei Liu against Richard Bethune. And he particularly liked the move Queen to E7. And, well, before we take on the other answers, let's have a look at the game.
Yep, the game, we have seen a couple of developments. White did push a pawn forward in order to open up the light-squared bishop to attack Black's queen. The Black queen has had to step back. We might see a trade of bishops right now. Still looking promising for Anish Giri. He's got a bit more space, space being the theme of the tournament. White having a nicely advanced central pawn. But if we do see that trade, the bishops leaving the board, then at least Nepomniachtchi, he won't worry about his pieces getting cramped. It's in the balance. I slightly prefer White, but Nepomniachtchi has a lot to play for himself.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really like this kind of reaction. You know, his queen was attacked and he simply retreated it and is also attacking a pawn. And talking about attacking pawns, going back to our question of the day, because I do have to show you the answers because people have had such amazing choices. Vipul says that his favourite chess game is Vishy Anand's Immortal game against Levon Aronian, one of the classics.
That was a great game too in the Slav. Vachier-Lagrave using his bishops, giving up a queen, and that checkmating pattern with the 2 bishops. Yeah, great choice there.
Yeah, and then finally the epistament. Oh, this is a bit of a mouthful.
Epistemic.
That's the one. Epistemic Watchtower. He says his favourite chess game is number 6 of the World Championship match between Fischer and Spassky, nicknamed the Applause, especially the move E4 and Queen to F4. And another great choice. You know, Bobby Fischer really played some fantastic chess.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the favourite chess game, but that's probably one of my favourite matches, one of the most historic matches that there's ever been in chess.
Yeah.
Fischer against Spassky, 1972.
Yeah, and if you want to enter our question of the day, you can do this by tweeting us using the hashtag #ChessChamps. And of course, we really appreciate, we do really like them. We love your pictures and the prize. I have to read out the bumper prize because we've never had such a long list of prizes just for one winner. Well, winner will get Anish Giri Sicilian Naidov Chessable course, 1-year Chessable Pro membership, 1-year Chess24 Premium membership, and if that is not enough, 1-year Magnus Trainer membership. Wow. Yeah, this is all comes courtesy of Opera. And interestingly enough, we've had a few clever responses, all saying that they really enjoyed the Opera game played by Paul Morphy against
Duke von Brunswick?
Yeah, Duke of Brunswick, yeah.
Brunswick, yeah.
It's a legendary game, actually, Kaya.
Is it?
Yeah.
So I have to check that out.
What year was that, Jovanka? That's the question.
18-something, 1856 or something, I was thinking.
A long time ago.
I have to say that name, Paul Morphy, it keeps everyone's talking about him, even if it's super long ago since he was great. And I know he had a very short career, right?
Yes.
It didn't go too well for him personally, I guess.
No, and in the end, he descended into madness. So, I mean, but in fact, talking about world champions, Bobby Fischer really loved Paul Morphy's games. He thought, he was way ahead of his time and was a big, big fan.
Yeah. I've been reading a lot about Paul Morphy recently, and how he insisted in some of his matches that his opponents had to play certain openings just so he could show off how attacking and how spectacular his style was.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, either way, he was a genius.
Was that against his school friend, well, no, college friend?
I'm not sure who it was against, but I just read that it was a rule that if anyone wanted to challenge him, that was the...
They had
those
to
were the
play
terms. He would open with his Kingspawn. They had to open at least half of their games with their Kingspawn as well.
Yeah, I do have to say, I do love the story behind the Opera game. He actually genuinely thought that he was going to enjoy some opera. That his rich friends had invited him to watch them. He was like, I love opera. We're going to be on a box. And they said, yes, we're going to watch opera, but we're going to play a game during the opera. And Paul Morphy was like,
didn't like that very much.
Yeah, and what's even worse was while the other two had a view to the action on the stage, he had his back towards the thing. So legend is that he kind of thought, well, I have to just finish this game off super quickly and punish them just because I just want to enjoy the stage.
Well, that is a brilliant mind to be able to do that.
It's a multitask indeed, and that game, the Opera game, very spectacular. And actually, Anish Giri has finally castled, and I thought he was about to go for your favourite move, Kaya, castling on that left side, but no, he castles on the king side.
All right, so we do definitely have a different game than the first one.
Yes, but there are still many imbalances and lots to play for. Both sides have strong points of their position and also weaknesses. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see the current position. White is ahead in development. White's king is nicely safe. White's queen is out, bishop out. All these guys perfectly placed. Also, if black is a bit careless and allows white's knight to the centre of the board, white's knight will become dominant, aiming into a potential outpost here. If we can kick this bishop back, if the black king castles, for example, if we kick the bishop back, maybe there's also another square the knight can jump to, attacking the queen, attacking the pawn. I'm not sure. There's just too many tempting moves with the knight. Maybe you want to go this way. This is a real octo knight in the middle of the board. Yeah. Maybe you even sacrifice it.
Maybe my bishop. My bishop can go all the way to the edge.
Maybe this way and a trap. Jovanka likes her checkmates, and this is a real possibility. If the white knight gets to the centre of the board and is able to start joining the attack, the black king would be trapped here. So I think Jan Nepomniachtchi, he has to do something okay, he has to do something about this white knight trying to jump into the center. Maybe playing on autopilot, bringing his knight to the middle, which I would be very tempted to play as black. Maybe it's a mistake because the knight does jump into the center of the board.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to eliminate this guy. Otherwise, it's just becoming too strong. The only downside is that maybe the white bishop is going to start planting itself on key diagonal, stopping the black king from castling later on.
He's done it, but, you know, that move had some serious drawbacks. And like you said, it's just gifting white all the dark squares. Here you go, have them. And, well, do you see any plan of neutralising
I think the only thing
bishop?
is giving white the dark squares, but trying to fight for the light squares. Maybe if the bishop joins this diagonal, you can pin it. Later on, I mean, it's still ugly for black, but maybe you plant your knight on a light square. You just hope that the dark squares aren't enough on their own to give white a winning advantage. The computer did suggest, as we see below the board, the computer did suggest this move, taking back with the queen. You don't want to double your own pawns. Look how ugly this pawn structure would be. Especially these two pawns would be eternal weaknesses. That's why the computer did suggest taking with the queen, and it happened. The knight develops itself. And now, again, look at that. Stockfish, the computer does think that one white move is much better than all of the others, bringing this bishop to a fantastic diagonal, eyeing up the black knight and stopping black from castling. The black king is stuck, having to defend. It's horsey. It's, it's knight here in the middle of the board.
And that is a bit of a no-brainer, David. I mean, it's the most natural move on the board. Black wants to castle, and you're like, no, of course not. And I'm fully expecting Anish to play that move. And again, the question is really, really very unpleasant for black. How is he going to handle that? I wasn't entirely convinced by the lines that you showed for black. For black, that is. I mean, and Anish has played it. But I mean, I do agree that that is the best chance. You know, the rook should line up against the bishop. And obviously, the queen will now move away, or perhaps the bishop will be reinforced. But certainly, once again, Jan Nepomniachtchi has gotten into trouble with the black pieces.
Yeah, Anish really playing on the front foot, not being afraid to go forward, to attack, to develop his pieces, and it's all looking good for him. But he did miss a golden opportunity in the first game, in that queen endgame. And, OK, he's going to be hoping that he can keep control now. The only thing for Anish Giri is the clock situation as well. If you look at the times, Anish Giri, 9.5 minutes. Jan Nepomniachtchi, 13.5 minutes. So a 4-minute deficit when it's still very tense. White's position is good, but you still need to get your rooks into the game. You still need to get at that black king somehow. Anish Giri doing the right thing, playing a quick move, supporting his bishop. Look how, I mean, that white bishop is just so strong.
It's a beautiful thing. I was going to say how the Australians do, and that's a beaut. I don't know why that came in. Exactly. Because I was thinking about that move, because it kind of releases the queen to go off on some adventures on the right side of the board, just to kind of threaten some pawns and try to penetrate into the position. Just such a lovely thing that Anish can do. Play left side, right side. It's a dream.
It's a dream, but it's not game over. Black is able to castle, and that was the key. Anish Giri, although I liked his pawn push, maybe there were other ways to try and stop black from castling.
I forgot about that. That elementary point.
Never forget your opponent can castle. Nepomniachtchi did that in the last game. I think it was already past move 20 that he castled. Now, again, castling late, Nepomniachtchi on move 17. But Anish Giri, he's ignoring that right side of the board. He's only playing on that left flank right now. He's trying to open lines for his rooks. And that's the next step. He's kind of secured a phenomenal piece, that white bishop, nicely anchored. Next is to get the rooks into the game. And Anish is doing that by opening lines. Makes sense. How will Nepomniachtchi react to that? First, you have to do something about the black knight. The black knight not under threat at the moment because the white bishop is pinned. For example, in the pass position, white could not capture this knight because suddenly the queen would drop behind it. But in the current position, Nepomniachtchi, sooner or later, he will have to deal with this knight because if he plays slowly, if he pushes a pawn, for example, white's queen will suddenly find a decent square. And not only is this knight attacked, but the rook behind it might also be a factor. That's why I expect, after white's pawn push, black to try and gain some time. Maybe jump forward with the knight, attack this queen first. When the queen moves, I'm not sure where it will go, but when the queen moves, just move your rook. So everything out of the eye line of this bishop, essentially. You cannot let this bishop continue pinning and winning along this diagonal. So now the bishop, still good, but hitting thin air. White, meanwhile, will try to open up his own rook to get into the game.
Yeah.
And this would be quite promising for Nishikori, but not the end of the world for Nepomniachtchi at least. And that's the key now, to survive for Nepo.
Yeah. I mean, I really do like this idea of just domination, and you can see Nepomniachtchi is following your advice, just reinforcing that knight, stepping out of the way of the pin. And yeah, you're saying it so brilliantly, David, that you have a fan. Francesco Basoli says, wish of the week, David as a chess teacher.
I still need to improve myself at the teaching. Yeah, maybe one day your wish will come true.
Yeah. What is the most, you know, we have, the funny thing with our question of the day is that you have different elements of it. You can have your favourite game that you've witnessed, your favourite game that you've studied, your favourite game by your favourite player. I mean, but what's your kind of like, your funniest game that you've ever seen?
Oh, funniest game that I've ever seen.
Wasn't it? Didn't we have a lot of laughs in one game this tournament?
Maybe it was the double Bong Cloud game with Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru, Nakamura.
Ah, that was it, yes.
Mixed feelings about that one. It was funny, but it wasn't really
too.
chess. So,
yeah, me too.
Okay, funny chess games. Oof. I don't know. That's a really hard question.
Yeah, I had a funny kind of experience with when I was about 16 or so. I was playing for my chess club, and you know, my dad was a super keen chess enthusiast, and we'd be playing every single night of the week. And I remember my brother was captaining this team, and we were short one player. And it just so happened that, you know, we were playing with the first team, and in the venue, we were going to default one game, but my brother spotted that there was someone in our third team playing who had just lost really quickly. And so my brother was like, please, 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 can you play for us? Otherwise, we're going to default. And he goes, I don't really fancy it. I've lost really quickly. My brother's like, please, 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 please. And so he's like, OK, fine. And he turns up and he plays his game and he wins. He wins like in like half an hour against someone super strong. and afterwards, like the guy is like, oh my God, you played so amazingly. Did you see this? No. The answer was, and in the post-mortem, everything, did you see this and this? No. Why did you make that move? Because I liked it.
And everyone laughed?
Yeah, everyone laughed. He was like our hero, and after he won that, you know, he was like player of the year.
That's the good thing about chess. If you understand, you don't necessarily need to see anything. Just use your instincts. Trust them,
Well, I remember a fun game that I saw with you, David, only like a month ago or something. You were at my house playing some blindfold chess.
That's right,
obviously against someone very much lower rated than you.
He's a strong chess player, though. He's our producer, so I'll say nice things. He's a great player.
But you were brilliant, blindfolded.
And I started without a rook.
Exactly. And we do remember this one. So this player, his name is Stian, made one move. He was very happy about it. And he thought, maybe now I tricked the great David Howell. And you just sat over there in the sofa, blindfolded, and say, ooh, sneaky.
Indeed.
Blindfold is interesting.
Yeah.
It's good training, apparently.
Well, it's insane to watch when you're not a chess player, I have to say. That is just something of the most impressive stuff that I see.
But it's difficult for chess players. I mean, it just requires a lot of focus, and that takes training, that takes practice. So it doesn't come naturally, trust me.
It must be exhausting as well, that you feel very tired afterwards.
Yeah. That was actually quite interesting and quite funnily enough. It was my husband's... he's a chess player as well. And he said to me, I can play 3 blindfold games at once. And I'm like, really? Can you? And so I was like, let's play. And the first board, we were like, OK, we can play this move. And we were good. Second board, we were good on the first move. By the second move, he'd forgotten what he'd played. And I was like, you're not that good at blindfold. You know, but it's tough. It's tough. But OK, we've seen some liquidations, simplifications on the board, and we also have a runaway pawn. I mean, that is going to be worrying.
Yeah, I mean, Anish Giri, he's banking everything on the attack right now. I'm very surprised, actually, by Anish Giri's decision, but it might pay off. And although the computer isn't a fan as well, we do see the bar in the middle. It could still go either way. That does not mean it's a draw. That does not mean it's completely balanced. It just means White's attack might not work, but Black has to be accurate in order to refute it. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see White right now has maybe 1 or 2 key ideas in the position. The runaway pawn Jovanka mentions is this one. This pawn darting up the board, and the plan is to open up lines towards the Black king. Oh, I'm about to cough, sorry.
Oh,
it's exciting, this position. And
plus, you've been talking non-stop for 8 days.
Yes, a lot of talking. And wow, I was about to say White's pawn is going to jump up the board.
Wow. Yeah, I can take over, David.
Don't lose your voice now, David.
Let's keep the board up. You talk us through it, Jovanka.
Well, there is now fire on the board because, you know, the big threat for White was simply to advance the pawn and just force Black to make these weaknesses on the right side of the board. But instead, look at that. Nepomniachtchi has chosen just to explode open the position, which is so high risk. You know, the traditional method is that you don't open lines against your king. And very, very nicely done. So brave kind of idea. Is it good, though?
I'm not so sure that it's a good move or a good idea for Nepomniachtchi. I think maybe he rushed to clarify the situation. Now, Anishgiri, as we see below the board there, he does have a couple of strong moves. The one I was very attracted to at first is not what the computer wants to play, but it is to drop the bishop back. This bishop was previously on a decent square, but there's more important things for it to do. Drop this bishop back, try and eliminate the best defender. Remember, knights are a king's best friend. Eliminate this Black knight, open up even more lines towards that Black king. However, the computer thinks that maybe first you can trade a set of pawns. Open up this rook, but maybe primarily to create a weak pawn and just to play strategically, to go for an isolated pawn. Maybe too many weaknesses in the Black camp. Yeah,
that's a very interesting approach. Very logical, very cold and calculating. I mean, I must admit, I would never have dreamt of capturing that pawn. For the primary reason that I want to attack, and I don't want to let the Black queen cross over to the right side so easily. And, OK, well, Anish has gone for your approach, David. You guys are channeling each other. So, OK, so Nepomniachtchi has been forced to defend that knight with his rook. And, OK, now, well, Nepomniachtchi is threatening to kind of play queen to the centre and just to kind of bring everything and threaten some trades.
Yep, I think it's a bit of a dream right now for Nepomniachtchi to take the queens off the board. Normally, the defending side wants to eliminate the queens. Nepomniachtchi, he has to worry about how strong simply White's bishop is. Black's knight just holding things together right now, but it isn't going to be there long term. At the very least, if Anishgiri, I mean, if everything goes wrong, he can always take the bishop, take the knight with his bishop and let things fizzle out. So Anishgiri, he is the one with some margin for error. He's got the leeway. How can he attack Black's pawns, though? Black does have 2 isolated pawns, one in the middle, one on that left side of the board. And I think it's time to start hitting them. Maybe bring the rook across one square, attack a pawn, maybe use your queen to attack that pawn.
Yeah, bring the rook across. You know, rook attacks the pawn and then, OK, ask Black, how are you going to defend that pawn? Because there's only one move that I can see, and that is the queen must centralise herself.
But where? That's the problem. OK, well, I was going to say, no matter where you put the queen, there will be some implications. This pawn and this pawn would be targets. Instead, Anishgiri goes for a completely different approach. He brings his queen across, and he's trying to use his queen and bishop to line up against this pawn. Also, there was a threat against the Black knight, which has moved. Will we see a trade of rooks, Jovanka? Will we see rook takes rook right now?
No.
Nope.
What do you think? I think absolutely not. I think the rook is needed in the game to harass Black. I think, you know, you can step the rook one square to the side and start attacking the pawns. And also, I'm quite aware of the situation that I would rather the piece combination to be a rook and bishop as opposed to a queen and bishop working against a queen and knight.
I completely agree. Ideologically, you should keep the rooks on the board. However, maybe there's kind of a concrete reason why you might get tempted to trade the rooks. The only reason Anishgiri might get tempted is now that he can win a pawn. He can bring his queen across, attacking a pawn here and attacking a pawn here, and Black can't defend both of them at the same time. He's going for this.
It's on the board, David, on the board. OK, so now how is Black going to react to that? So he has to fight this material loss with piece activity.
Yeah,
that's the only way.
First question is, will Anish Giri find this move attacking two pawns?
Yes, I think so. I think why else would he have traded rooks?
Yeah. The other question is, he might be tempted to bring his queen into the position, but now Black would just step his king forward. Everything is on light squares for Black. These pawns, the knight as well, they're on light squares, so they're easy to protect. And there we see it. The computer suggestions just below the board. Stockfish does advocate this move, bringing the queen across. It's not the only move to give an advantage, but it's probably the best one, attacking two undefended pawns. That's the key in every position. Just look at your opponent's camp, look at what's not protected, and once you know what the targets are, it makes it easier to line up against them.
Yeah.
All right. And Anish Giri made his move with only 3 minutes and 45 seconds left on his clock. He's definitely taking his time here.
Yeah, but he didn't make the materialistic choice, let's say.
Yeah. But I don't know, it's getting close to an endgame. Materialism, it would make sense in that last position, especially while Black's queen is passive, while you have the luxury of using a move or two to go and grab a pawn. Instead, Anish gives check. Black's king is back to safety. Note how it's guarding a pawn in the corner there. Black only has one undefended pawn remaining, but that's easy to hold with the Black queen. So maybe Anish Giri missing a small opportunity there. He still has the advantage because Black's king is more of a target right now than White's is. Black's pawns are slightly weaker than White's are, but the lower he gets on the clock, the more opportunities he lets slip away. This one could completely be flipped on its head. The queen and knight, if they combine, are a great combo. They're a great duo. So, and also, one thing that is not in Anish Giri's favour is his CO2 levels. They are rising. They are higher than we saw them previously just in the last round. The last round, they're around 900, right?
Yeah, just under 900. Now they're in the critical area, which is like over 1,000. This is not good news. And it's something, interestingly enough, we saw in the Air Things Masters, that his air quality was consistently really bad, and actually it was his worst tournament by a long shot.
Yep. So CO2 levels definitely affecting Giri's play. At least historically, will they affect it in this game? He is attacking a pawn with his queen right now. White's queen, nicely centralised. That's the perfect square pretty much for a queen in queen endgames. That's just where you have to put them. They control both sides of the board. But I expect Nepomniachtchi to defend that pawn that is attacked with his own queen. There's a few ways of doing that.
You have to be slightly careful because you can't forget that there are two weak pawns to defend. You can get a bit enthusiastic and just think, I have to defend one pawn, and then just overlook the fact that the pawn on the left needs protection too.
That's right. So, OK, just before Nepomniachtchi makes a move, it looks like he's about to make a move. But if we bring up the board, we see one key threat right now. You have to defend this pawn and you have to choose the right square. Nepomniachtchi does that. Note how he's guarding this pawn and this pawn. I was about to say there's a huge mistake in the position. If the queen goes the whole way across, this would actually lead to checkmate on the next move. We love our checkmates, Ivanka. I had to point this out.
We do. But it's the kind of easy thing that you kind of overlook. You're so obsessed with defending one point in your position, you completely forget that your opponent also has some ideas and some moves. And
so rarely see it on this level that they play to checkmate. Should we have like a rule in this tour that they have to play it out to checkmate, or is that just rubbing it in?
It can be.
If it's a nice kind of pretty aesthetically pleasing checkmate, we can encourage them. We could say, just to reward the fans and to make it clear. But sometimes if it's dead lost and the game would go on another 50 moves, then we understand why they would kind of save their energy. So it's difficult. But for example, in game one today, Carlson against Wesley. So Carlson was one move away from checkmate. It wouldn't have hurt Wesley to just put that last move on the board and allow Magnus to show his great idea.
Yeah. But because what really happens is that he pushes the button that says resign.
Yeah.
So that's how it ends, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like in the game nowadays. Normally, to resign in an over-the-board game, all you do is stop the clock and you offer your hand. In the past, I don't know whether they tipped their king over. I think that's just in the movies. But
no, they did.
They did.
They did, David.
I don't remember those days, but
when it's kind of more like a kid thing to do. You kind of knock your king over. Yeah.
Wow. And Anish Giri, I don't understand that last move. Is he just gambling? Anish Giri with 2 minutes left on his clock. He's just given up a pawn. He's offered a pawn sacrifice.
Let's put it up on
the board. I don't think it works, Jovanka.
Okay, but let's put it up on the board and let's show why it doesn't work.
Okay, let's get the players' cameras on, because look at Nepomniachtchi's face. He's frowning. He's shocked by that decision. White just pushing a pawn forward here. Yes, this pawn is currently defended by the white queen, but once you eliminate the queens, once you take the queens off the board, black can grab a pawn. Black would now be a pawn up. And the reason Anish Giri has sacrificed is because he wants to push his pawn, his new passed pawn, down to goal. But I think it's not going to get there. White will push forward. The black knight will step back, potentially guarding the promotion square of this pawn. And if white continues to step forward, then suddenly black would attack this bishop. The bishop has to retreat. If it goes back this way, the pawn drops. If it goes back the other way, then suddenly black's other pawn could get motoring, or black can simply walk his king over and win this white pawn. Note how the black knight does protect this important square. I think Anish Giri has just completely underestimated this, or maybe overestimated his own chances in this endgame. If Jan Nepomniachtchi now plays queen takes queen and then pawn takes pawn, only black can win.
Okay, well, actually, Nepomniachtchi trusted Anish and instead took the pawn. But I mean, that line that you showed was super convincing and actually quite straightforward.
Yep.
So it's definitely something that Nepomniachtchi could have calculated. Okay, but I think what we're going to see now is a position where white has a tiny bit of an edge because of this outside pass pawn. And Nepomniachtchi is just using this whole idea of working with the queen and knight to prevent the pawn from advancing. Does Anish have anything? I don't think so.
It's going to be difficult to win this one. Queen and knights together, they're just so tricky, right? There will be an element of danger if white kind of is a bit too ambitious and steps forward, starts running with the pawn, then suddenly you might lose control of some key squares and the knight will jump in. There might be some knight forks, but it is still easier for white to play, at least. Anish Giri moving his queen up. He's offering a repetition of the position. Will we? Okay, this is the second time we've seen this position. If Anish Giri moves his queen forward again, the game will end in a draw in a moment. He does do this. Okay, threefold repetition. Giri didn't even try to win that one. Slightly disappointing from Giri, but we have seen how good Nepomniachtchi is in queen endgames.
Fantastic Jan Nepomniachtchi is in these endgames, and we have a third draw in the third game in the final between Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. You sound a little bit surprised, David, about this result coming so soon.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I think Giri could have played on without too much risk. He could have just maybe pushed a pawn near his king, created some breathing space for the white king, and Nepomniachtchi, the onus was on him to force the draw. We saw how happy he was, how instantly he went for that draw at the end. But yeah, Giri, I think the reason he allowed it is because he knows the chance had passed. And yeah, I think earlier the bigger chance that Giri missed wasn't in the final position, which should have been a draw with best play anyway. It was earlier on in the game. We saw him go on the attack and continue the attack in this position as white by trading a set of pawns and now bringing the white queen across, trying to attack the black king. And after black's knight, under fire from the white bishop and rook, stepped forward, we saw a trade. And I think this is the biggest chance that Giri missed in the whole game, the clearest cut opportunity at least. Instead of giving a check with his bishop, which led to the game continuation, he could have just sidestepped with his queen, attacking a pawn here and attacking a pawn here. He would have gone up a pawn. So pretty much the same as the game situation, but with an extra pawn for white. And I think Giri would have been destined to win this game. Not easy, but a missed opportunity.
Still tied, Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri. The fourth and final game in the first match is coming up in 15 minutes. Jan Nepomniachtchi there will have the white pieces. Now, we do know that, drawing the first match is an okay result. Everything will be decided tomorrow. But do you expect Jan Nepomniachtchi in great shape to go all out for the win in that final one?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that he's going to try. I mean, not necessarily go all out, take extreme risks, but we have seen basically that Nepomniachtchi has been playing aggressive regardless of the situation that he's in. So I'm expecting him to come out with something that puts Anish on edge.
And we are now joined by Simon Williams, Ginger GM. Hi, Simon.
Hi there. How are you doing? All right?
Yeah, we're both dressed all in black. Jovanka's dressed all in black. You just
a bit miserable, wasn't it? Really? So yeah,
you were all a bunch of vampires.
Yeah, the angel sitting over here, David Howell.
David's always the angel, David. Look at that smile.
Yeah. Well, what a day, Simon. 3 draws so far in the final, but definitely not a dull final. It feels very intense. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think it's been a great final. I mean, I've been very impressed with the tactical play that's going on. I thought Anish might try to play a bit slow, a bit positional, but he's come out fighting. He's come out with some very full frontal attacks against Jan's king, and he's gone on the offensive. I mean, he's been a little bit unlucky, I suppose, to get 3 draws because he really should have won one of those games. And if he does only draw the match or even lose the last game, he'll be very upset going into tomorrow.
And obviously so much at stake for these 2 players. I mean, the winner taking home $60,000. What would you spend $60,000 on, Simon?
I might get a lighter jacket for next time, you know, maybe a lighter T-shirt, maybe take you guys out for a drink when I'm over in Oslo. That sounds like a good plan as well.
Yeah.
So many things.
That'll buy you about 2 drinks in Oslo.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I'll get everyone 1 drink, money's done, and we'll have to play a game of chess or something then, so yeah.
Yeah, let's do that in London so we can have 60,000 drinks instead. But I mean, okay, so it's tense in the final, very tense actually, but in the battle for 3rd place, I mean, that's been super dramatic and creative, especially on Magnus's part. I know you followed it a little bit, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, the first game there was absolutely phenomenal display from Magnus, and it was kind of like, okay, the stress is kind of off him yesterday, and I think, you know, you can see the stress in his play. He's stress-free, and he just attacked Wesley, and he just checkmated Wesley in about 24 moves. And this just doesn't happen to someone as strong as Wesley So. And if Magnus could just play like that more often, then, well, he would be winning these tournaments on a regular basis.
And I think it is from this game that the learning point is today. So let's get it. Simon's learning point.
So we get to this position where Magnus has the white pieces, and it's a very complex position. Magnus has sacrificed a piece earlier. He did it really quickly, and you can see Wesley So's king is stuck on the back there, and it hasn't got much protection around it. All the pawns have been removed from the board. That white queen is sort of hovering around it, just ready to pounce as well. But where is the killer finish? And maybe people watching this can already see the killer finish. It was a very nice finish. We've got to use all of our pieces to attack that king. So the bishop slides in with a cheeky check there, and the king is now under attack. It can't block the check, you can't capture the bishop. There's only 1 square the king can try to run to, so it runs to the middle of the board. And now Magnus gives 1 more check, now using his queen, and we're just trying to force that black king into a situation where it can't escape. And here, well, Wesley actually resigned here, which is a slight pity because he could have moved the king up the board, keep running up the board, running away, trying to run away, do a Forrest Gump there, run. But after this one, there's checkmate in 1 move. The rook can just get involved and take the pawn. And they do say the sort of magic number when you're attacking the king is to have 3 pieces attacking. And in this situation, White's got the rook, kind of the 2 bishops and the queen, so he's got the magic number, and that, well, very nice game from Magnus.
Very nice game from Magnus Carlsen. I know they're so we won this game. They played 2 draws. They are currently playing the 4th one. I'm just looking at the bar on my computer. Is Magnus winning the 4th one as well, David? If you have it.
Yes, it's looking very good for Magnus.
All right, so he's really, you know, striking back today. Are you impressed, Simon?
Yeah, I think just shows you how pressurized it can be. And like when you're playing for 3rd and 4th, it's like, okay, I can't win it anymore. 3rd place is still nice. Let's just play some chess. And without having that kind of dragging you down, you know, you can just play without that pressure. And that's what Magnus kind of needs to do more. And I think even David's mentioned this as well. David is a fantastic chess player. And I think David mentioned when there's less stress on him, he plays a lot better. And maybe it's something we all have. So, yeah, just be stress-free.
And maybe if we work on our puzzles as well, we won't feel as pressured when we're playing chess. We did have the puzzle of today, Simon. David loves that game, he said many times. So I'm looking forward to the answer to this puzzle.
Yeah. So if we go over there, this was an amazing game, and it was one of the coolest players around at the moment, Daniil Dubov. And Dubov has been impressing us throughout the tour with his Tao-like play. You might know of Mikhail Tao, who is one of the most exciting chess players in the history of chess. He loves sacrificing his pieces. He just gave his pieces away to try and hunt his opponent's king down, like some kind of artist who was just trying to paint a great piece of art on the board. Now, this situation, what is the black king doing there? Again, it's doing that Forrest Gump thing, run, 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 and it's in the wrong area of the board. It has no defense around it, and it just depends here how white can try to trap it. So we need to think of ways to create a net around that king. And the move played here, which I hope some viewers at home, some people on Twitter got, is bishop to b3. And if there's not an immediate check that does something, you should be looking for checks first. If there's not an immediate capture that does something very good, try to create a threat. And this move does create the threat of now allowing the queen to come to that square there with checkmate. Now, if the bishop is taken, which is obviously something that Daniil must have seen, so let's have a look at that. The king takes the bishop. Now we have a strong check. The queen comes back to give the king a check. There's only one square that king can go to, and that is to the dart square, and it's checkmate. Can everyone see it? Hope so. Look for the checks.
Give me a second.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to leave it in your hands now. Can you see it? You got it?
Yes, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the queen, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
The queen goes over 2 squares and delivers checkmate. Now, there are some other variations after this bishop b3 move, but that was really the killer move. And I think if anyone at home found that move, you're doing really well. So well done. And yeah, just a lovely, lovely game that was.
Is it one of those games that goes into history? We've been talking about, the history of chess, Jovanka.
Yeah, definitely. It's not often that you see a king run, especially in modern day chess, when the players are actually so much better than before. And of course, it was such an instructive game and in an important event.
Yeah.
David and myself were both playing there, and we both admired the game, Yeah,
I was very lucky, actually. I was playing just the row behind this game, and then I saw a huge crowd gather. There must have been 20, 30 people, and I was still playing my game, and I just thought, OK, let's just make a move quickly and go over and look at this game. And it was just in the final stages, and Dubov, he was just leaning back. He'd seen it all coming in advance, and he just the way he played the moves, it was as if he knew it was a masterpiece happening on the board.
Wow. Oh, that sounds so fantastic, to be at over-the-board tournaments and, the magic of everyone gathering around boards. You missed that, Simon?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it'd be lovely when we can all meet up again and actually play on a board and relax afterwards. And playing on the computer's fun, but it doesn't. Nothing beats playing on a proper wooden chessboard.
Well, as always, we have to put him on the spot, though, Jovanka. This one is a good one, though.
Yeah, this one is a good one. Simon has a wealth of knowledge here. So we are asking everyone, what is your favourite chess game?
My favourite chess game? Wow. There was one game that I really like, and it was between Ivanchuk and Yusupov. And this was played, I think, in about 1990, and it was on the run-up to the World Championships. And Yusupov sacrificed all of his pieces and ended up checkmating Ivanchuk, knocking Ivanchuk out of that World Championships. And I think the story goes, Ivanchuk was number 2 in the world at the time, and a lot of people were saying this guy's going to be the world champion. He's a real character, Ivanchuk. He's been described as a genius. And he lost this game, and he went out into the busy street and apparently started screaming out there, just couldn't handle the loss. But it was a very nice game if you get a chance to track it down.
All right, we'll have to do that.
Good choice.
Yep. All right. Well, let's hope we have some maybe historical games still to go in the final. Thanks so much for joining us, Simon.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
See ya. All right, we're gonna, it's starting very soon in only a few minutes, but I think we have time for a couple of answers to the question of today.
Yeah, of course we have time, Kaya. we really love hearing everyone's answer to the question that we asked. What is your favorite chess game? And we have one from Florent Savu who says, Korchnoi against Kasparov in Lucerne Olympiad 1982. It was one of Kasparov's best games. And there you can see a picture of the two. And we also liked Alex Fonseca, who says his favourite chess game is the one that he played against his female cat.
Ooh.
The True Queen's Gambit. It's quite good when you play your pets. and then we also liked Ibrahim Khalil Hussein, who says he really enjoyed 1960 Mikhail Tal's Knight Sacrifice for almost no immediate returns to fully activate his forces and refuse to retreat. So he's a big admirer of Mikhail Tal, someone that Simon mentioned, former world champion, who was famous for just sacrificing pieces.
Oh, we love those games. All right, well, will we have some sacrifices in the last game, in the final? Let's take a look at the results before we head into that final game in the final. So they played 3 draws so far, Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. The winner of this final game will be the winner of the first match, but of course they could play a draw and it will be tied before that second match tomorrow. Now, look at that. Magnus Carlsen has finished his final game against Wesley So, winning 2 games today. Magnus Carlsen is the clear winner of the first match in the battle for 3rd place. So let's hope we can get a comment from Magnus after a fantastic day of chess for him. But it is mostly about these 2 players in the final. Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi heading into that final game of the day. They are both sitting quite close to each other. Anish Giri in the Netherlands at 8 o'clock in the evening. But Jan Nepomniachtchi even later, 10 o'clock in the evening for him. But he has been fantastic in the end of all these days. So Jan Nepomniachtchi seems he's liking to play in the evening. We are waiting for him to arrive with the white pieces in the final game of today. And a big, big advantage, David, to go into day 2 as the winner of day 1. So are we expecting some blood now?
I am expecting some blood, but I think in order to get that blood, Nepomniachtchi will need to try something different to what he tried 2 games ago when he last had the white pieces. Last time, he went full charge into Anish Giri's opening preparation, and it didn't quite work out. He was completely neutralized. Anish guided that game towards safety, and we did see a draw. Nepomniachtchi, maybe the best way to beat Anish Giri, opening expert, is to just surprise him early on or take it into slower, calmer waters where Anish Giri maybe hasn't had to show his skills so far in this match.
I was just going to ask you the question. Of course, one of our prizes is the Anish Giri Chessable Najdorf course. Should Nepomniachtchi take him on in this minefield?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tempting, right? If your opponent plays the same openings as you do, to test them in that battleground. It's your own home ground, it's also their home ground. You both know so much. But personally, I'm very biased. I never go to my opponent's strong points. I always try to serve towards their weak side. I always try and catch them off guard in the opening. That's what Giri's been working on the hardest, the Sicilian Najdorf, if he's putting courses out, if he's preparing for the candidates. So maybe the best strategy is to try and catch him off guard.
Yeah,
OK, we do see the Sicilian, though. We might be heading back towards that Sicilian Najdorf. Kaya, your favourite opening.
Yes.
Anisha's favourite opening.
There it is.
Jan's favourite opening as well. And we see a repetition of game 2 so far. The poisoned pawn variation. There we go. Black grabs that pawn. That dictates that Black is happy to drink that poison. And Anish Giri, principled, he is sticking to his guns. We saw this position earlier in game 2, exactly the same so far. OK, Jan Nepomniachtchi does finally make the first deviation. The paths have diverged from that game. He brought his bishop out to a different square this time. Anish Giri, he was ready. The rook drives itself across, attacking White's bishop, the light-squared bishop. Will we see a trade of light-squared bishops here, Jovanka? I mean, this is deep opening theory. Both of these players will have studied this position with their coaches and with a computer with an analysis engine.
Yeah, it was quite interesting that you say, you know, because I suspect that Nepomniachtchi didn't know his lines, just judging by his reaction in game 2. And what he's had is he's spoken to his seconds, and the seconds have gone, here's the file, you have 10 minutes, get going. This is the idea.
Yeah, I mean, the margins between these players at the top level is so small that even having 10 minutes of consultation with some of your coaches, it can prove to be the difference. But this is very direct stuff. We see a set of bishops leaving the board and a set of queens leaving, and a set of knights leaving the board. Sorry. And white now is going for checkmate. Nepomniachtchi going... I mean, actually, if black plays a very natural move here, bishop takes bishop, it's checkmate in 2 moves. There's a huge threat in the position as well. Anish Giri, OK, he reacts by counterattacking. He goes for the white king. Look, this is crazy stuff. White's king is walking up the board. Wow,
OK. Well, no, not quite yet.
Not quite yet,
OK. The bishop has come in to block the check, and still there's absolutely anything to play for because, wow, we have attack, we have counterattack. Unbelievable stuff. I fully expected the white queen to retreat. David, does it work?
I'm trying to work it out. It's so complicated, this position. Black is a pawn up with his last move as well. Black attacked the white queen. Nepomniachtchi didn't care. He counterattacked. He's attacking the black queen now. Both queens under threat. Absolute chaos right now. Jan Nepomniachtchi, this was his deep idea. Imagine, he only gets a 10-minute break between the games, but he spent all of it studying this line. I think black has to be very careful. He should be fine. I'm also trying to use the hint that the players don't get of looking at the evaluation bar to gauge the position. And there we see black jettisons his queen. We call that a pseudo-sacrifice, where you give up your queen temporarily, but you get the opponent's queen back. And now we're in the endgame. Black is a pawn up, but white's rook, white's bishop, potentially as well, they will be much more active than their counterparts. Look, we're on move 23. Both players, especially Nepomniachtchi, he's almost at 18 minutes. He only started with 15. And here we go.
And the moves just keep instantly playing themselves on the board. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, this is seriously deep prep. Nepomniachtchi has 18 minutes on the clock. Giri has just under 17 minutes. Like, we've never seen the like before. 24 moves on the board.
I think the only time we've seen this before in the tour is in the last tournament when Maxime Vachier-Lagrave had 19 and a half minutes when he blundered and went into a losing king and pawn endgame. So he'd gained all that time. Remember, the players having a 10-second increment after every move. But meanwhile, OK, let's do a quick overview of this position. White is down a pawn, remember, but white's key kind of trump card here is the fact that his rook is so active. Black's rook in the corner, meanwhile, hasn't found any open lines. And black still has the right to castle, but he can't right now because the black king is tied down to his bishop. Just while Anish Giri thinks, because I expect him to think for a long time here, he can think for a long time if he wants to. Just while Anish Giri thinks, if we bring up the board, we can see the main dilemma facing black. OK, yeah, but he just needs to deal with his king, essentially. Black needs to get his king to safety, even in the endgame. He also needs to activate that black rook, because otherwise, despite the fact he's a pawn up, he will be paralysed. He will get his pieces dominated.
So, but are the chances for both sides here? Do you think we're going to see a long, hard fighting game? I mean, there's not many pieces left.
And both sides have a lot of time on the clock.
Yeah.
I think the next few moves are critical. If Anish isn't accurate, then we could see him getting tortured for a long time. Nepomniachtchi will start amping up the pressure, and it's not going to be easy for Giri. But if Giri is accurate, he should. I think there are maybe 2 or 3 ways to kind of release the pressure.
Shall we have a look at the best way?
If we can bring up the board this time, we can see that black currently does have one passive rook. This rook needs open lines. We did see it as well. Black pushed this pawn in order to try and activate the rook, but it was completely blocked off. White refusing to open up lines. Therefore, this rook needs squares. You cannot castle the king, remember, because your bishop would drop off in the middle of the board. And I think the only other way to activate the rook, or the best way at least, is to maybe push this pawn forward. Give back your extra pawn. Sometimes that's the best thing to do when you're under pressure. You have an extra pawn for a reason. Give it back in order to open up lines. And now the rook finally has somewhere to jump to. It will capture this pawn. Then next, the other pawn will drop. And black is right back in the game. I think this is the key move for Anish Giri, pushing this pawn forward. It's not the only move. You could, for example, play a really long manoeuvre. You could move your rook forward 1 square, then you could move these 2 pawns out the way. But that, to me, just looks way too inhuman, too slow, kind of counterproductive, unless there's an immediate gain. And, this one, to me, looks correct.
I really like that move, actually. It's funnily enough, for someone who likes pushing pawns, it didn't even occur to me to push the pawn 2 squares. I was thinking about pushing it 1 square and then tucking the king with the same idea. But this one looks absolutely brilliant because it also disrupts the white pawn structure there on the right side of the board. And I really like what David has suggested. Will it happen? What do you think?
It's not clear whether that will happen. It's maybe not the most obvious move. It's not human instinct to give back a pawn on an empty square unless you have immediate gains. But here there are an immediate... Well, I mean, there is an immediate reason for that move. So Giri, he's doing the right thing. As soon as you reach a position that's new to you after the opening, just take a pause and reassess, start calculating. Pomniachtchi's body language, he looks a bit bored. He's probably studied this position in that 10-minute break. And it's just amazing to me.
Well, as Anish is thinking in this very critical position, we are joined by Magnus Carlsen after a very good day against Wesley. So, Magnus, how happy are you with your play today?
I was okay.
You don't mean that. That first game?
No, but the thing is that this knight of 6 is something that that was in a file Peter sent me earlier today. So obviously, if it had been my idea that I found over the board, I would be very proud. Obviously, I didn't know the whole line after what happened.
So Magnus,
I had to figure out some of that over the board. But truth be told, it wasn't very difficult after f5. But still, I mean, it's a great feeling, obviously, to beat such a good player in that sort of style.
And I know we have the first game here on your analysis board, David. This was simply spectacular.
Yeah, I have to ask Magnus. You said this was in your file, this was in your opening preparation, but personally, I've never seen this move on move 4 before. Is this? Have you revolutionized chess openings with this move?
No, it's been played, I think, like by Van Forest, I believe, and some others.
What's the idea behind it? It looks so counterproductive, or counterintuitive at least.
You grab some space.
You make chess sound so simple, Magnus.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, the thing is, you're trying to get a good version of something, some opening in reverse. Like after d5, you're claiming that a4 is a useful move there. And also after moves like bishop c5 or bishop b4 or bishop b7, whatever, you're trying again to claim that there is use for the move a4. Realistically, obviously, it's not even close to being better. But the fact that I actually managed to play, he sort of jumped into the one line where White has a serious idea is obviously pretty fortunate for me, but still very, very satisfying.
So, Magnus, did you simply have fun playing today without maybe too much pressure?
I would say I wasn't particularly motivated for it before today, but the first game helped immensely. After that, I sort of tried to treat it as a serious match, and that I wanted to. I wanted at least not to score any own goals like I did on the previous 2 days.
Now, we are following the final game with Nepo and Anish. Could we get your expert verdict on this strange position with very few pieces left?
I think it's pretty much an ideal situation for Jan here. He's way up on time. The score in the match it's equal, and it feels like he has a little bit of pressure, at least psychologically speaking. So I think he must be pretty happy. I'm sure the computer spits out a draw in one or probably many ways, but yeah, it's a lot more pleasant to be on here.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. I would prefer Jan's position here, but if you were Anish on the flip side, if you had less time and maybe some passive pieces, how would you approach this position with black?
I would try and force matters. Probably, that's what I would say.
Okay.
Does he have the right to castle, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking of lines like H3 here, and lines like H3 and something like Bishop G5 takes, and if not for castle, well, there's also Rook F8 actually, but castle obviously solves all the problems you can have.
Yeah, that's cool, castling so late in the game.
Yeah. This is a strange game. This is a strange day. I hope you enjoyed it, Magnus. We certainly did, following your games.
No, as I said, the first game helped immensely when it came to motivation, and I mean the other match has been fun to follow as well.
All right, we thank you so much for joining us, Magnus. Good luck tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
I actually saw on Norwegian TV too, they named that game, that first game, Murder on a Chessboard. So do we actually have, like, the opera game and the game of the century, do we have another one here for the history books?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not only is that a rare opening idea that's only been seen before a few times, but just the manner in which it happened. I mean, just brutal. It's very rare to see such a one-sided game between two world-class players.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this tournament's named after him, but this game should...
A picture, quite cool picture. It says, who's this stormtrooper playing? And you can see it's Pomniachtchi's empty chair. Oh. So perhaps this could be nicknamed the Stormtrooper game. Or, you know, it's quite fitting after all, because Nepomniachtchi has been quoting a lot of Yoda.
It's true. It's true. And he is looking very zen.
Yeah.
Where he's sitting right now. I mean, with 17 minutes on the clock, no problem.
Well, he did say, you know, there can only be one apprentice, one master. And he's making it clear. He is the master.
Yeah, I think that quote's from The Phantom Menace. So he's playing like a bit of a menace in this game. He's trying to threaten...
I thought that was crafty. Like, is he saying that Anish was the Phantom Menace? Like, was there another level to the tweet that we...
These guys, they love their other levels.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Anish has been under pressure, has been spending a long time on the clock, 10 minutes down now, but I think he's come up with a good move. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see Magnus Carlsen was going for was advocating a very direct, forcing path towards a draw. He mentioned that was Anish's best bet, and Anish, he's trying that. It doesn't look like it at first, his last move, pushing this pawn, but the reason this pawn has been pushed is because now this pawn controls a key square. It controls this square, so if White tries to start picking off pawns on the other flank, on the other side of the board, then suddenly Anish Giri, his rook, will finally get active. And it will start munching on pawns. So we do see a check in this position. Will Anish Giri just step forward with his king? I expect to see this move. If the rooks disappear from the board, this game should just be a simple draw. Black's still a pawn up, but one of these pawns eventually will drop and the game will just fizzle out. And, if Jan Nepomniachtchi wants to win, I think in the current position, he cannot trade rooks. He has to find another square. He has to maybe drop the rook back, eyeing up two other pawns. Let's see Jan Nepomniachtchi's decision. A lot of time on the clock. It should be a draw with best play, but the key thing is White is on the attack, so he can still try and dictate things, try and set some traps for Anish to fall into. Anish not out of the woods yet, but defending well so far.
Yes, certainly. And the rook move that you predicted, David, is on the board. And, of course, Nepomniachtchi has to make a choice. And there you see it. Instantly moving his rook to an open diagonal. So now we have the choice of pawns. Which pawn would you take?
Yeah.
I think I would...
I have to say, Jovanka, rook to an open diagonal. That's a new one for me.
Did I say a rook to an open diagonal?
I've been making my blunders. It's about time you did as well.
I like it.
Sorry.
It's been a long 7 days.
It's been a long tournament for these players and for us.
You've been waiting for that one. Okay.
You never slip up, I've been waiting.
No, I slip up all the time. Yeah, rook to an open line.
That's fantastic. Jovanka played chess her whole life, talking about bishops and rooks her whole life. And then suddenly the rook goes on diagonals.
No.
I'll forgive you because the bishops do play a big part in this position.
Exactly. I was thinking ahead. This was my mistake. I was thinking which pawn would you take, and I was primarily considering bishop takes pawn. So that's where the diagonal came across.
No, it makes sense. And I think if we bring up the analysis board, we have to commend Anish Giri on his last move. White dropping the rook back, attacking 2 pawns now, attacking this pawn with his bishop and attacking this corner pawn. And Anish Giri doesn't go on the defensive. And this is something for everyone to remember, whether you're beginning the game or whether you're an expert level. Just sometimes it's better to go active than to go passive with your pieces. So just ignore the pawns. It's better to activate the black rook. Black's rook bring itself across to this open diagonal. And the black rook is simply going to target white's pawns. No matter which pawn white takes, the black rook, OK, it could jump into this position, eyeing up these 2 guys, or maybe even stronger, it's going to pin this white bishop against the king. So activate your pieces. Everyone should do this. That's the best way to defend difficult endgames.
And ding, 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 ding. After having played for 15 minutes and 30 moves, Jan Nepomniachtchi is now under the time that he started with.
Yeah, about time.
Yeah.
That's why they call him the speed demon. And
wow, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. OK, well, he has taken the pawn, and now we're fully expecting Anish to come in. And I really like the move that you suggested, just pinning the bishop and the king together. I mean, just love that one. I think it's the most natural move on the board because it just poses some kind of problems for white. What are you going to do? Step back?
Yeah, I agree. Why not create a threat? Simon Williams said it. If you don't have any kind of decisive checks, don't have decisive captures, create a threat. There we go. Anish Giri creates a threat. He creates that pin. He was threatening to drop a pawn down and attack white's bishop. He would have won white's bishop. That's why the white king had to step out of the line of fire. And there we go. Black's pawns have started advancing. Look how much more active Anish Giri's position is now than it was just 3 or 4 moves ago. White's bishop takes a pawn. So, OK, Nepomniachtchi, who was a pawn down just 2-3 moves ago, is now a pawn up. But the problem is, it is a rook endgame. Rook endgames have drawish tendencies. And once the bishops disappear from the board, I think Anish Giri will just capture that bishop. Once that happens, white's remaining pawns, they're all isolated. And it won't be possible to save all of them.
Yeah. Well, this is the big question. Is Anish gonna try for more? Or is he simply going to just liquidate the position, just advance a few pawns and just let everything simplify
that's
and
a good point.
Agree a draw?
No, that's a good point, Jovanka. I didn't even see that Anish Giri could play for the win here. And maybe he can. If Anish Giri is feeling ambitious, he will not trade the bishops yet. He will play pawn down and give check to the white king. Maybe that's the more ambitious move. It won't change the evaluation too much, I think, but maybe it'll force Nepomniachtchi to be the one finding some accurate replies in return. And that's the key here. Everything should lead to a draw, but maybe you can force your opponent to, find a narrow path. That's the key in any chess game. Give them the kind of, give them the opportunity to make a mistake at least.
And we have talked about these 2 players being the best chess players in form right now, in shape before the candidates, and they don't make any blunders. So is it going to be hard without those blunders to be able to find a win here?
Yeah, rapid games with only 15 minutes on the clock, they're full of blunders. We've seen it before, but this final, it's been error-free pretty much.
Yeah.
I can't remember a single mistake. I mean, small inaccuracies, but that's always going to happen.
That's true, yeah.
But no big mistakes from either side.
Yeah, I mean, the closest that I would say came in game 1 when Anish was actually totally winning and he just let the win slip. But it was nothing like, oh, my God, what a terrible move. It was kind of more like a gradual series of inaccuracies. And, I think Anish is going to end the day in some peaceful mood. I think the pawns are going to get swapped off, and we're going to see a very theoretical, technical rook and pawn endgame, which is just completely draw.
Yep, so black has options now. He could push his own pawns. Black's rook as well. It could drop down 2 squares and attack 2 white pawns at the same time. That would pretty much guarantee a draw. You see it on Nepomniachtchi's face. He knows that he tested Anish Giri. He had this long opening preparation. OK, there we see the double attack on white's pawns. But yeah, Nepomniachtchi, he tried something. It nearly worked, but Anish Giri had all the answers, and sometimes that's all you can do, go for the draw. And here we're seeing all of the pawns start to disappear. We might even see, OK, we're going to see king versus king. OK, there we go. And everything traded off, everything hoovered off the board.
Wow.
The draw.
We definitely have a draw in the final game between Anish Giri and Jan Nepomniachtchi. It's 4 games, 4 draws in the final. So far, it is intense. It is such a close race. It is 2 fantastic players in great shape, and they're not letting each other in on any way, Rebecca.
No.
They're just completely rock solid, both of them.
Yeah, totally rock solid, especially those last 3 games. The funny thing is they have been playing wild openings, totally unexpected. And you would certainly think that from that opening that you would get something crazy. And it was for a time being. But suddenly they navigated the waters, and before you know it, position is a draw, and it's been perfect chess.
Yeah. And this was certainly a strange game, David. With very few pieces after only a few moves, and they didn't spend a lot of time either.
Yeah, they didn't spend a lot of time, and that is because Jan Nepomniachtchi, especially, he was very well prepared. He tested Anish Giri.
And actually, David, I'm just going to jump in because I actually think we have Jan Nepomniachtchi joining us, and then it would be so much fun to have both Jan and David go through this final game for us, if that's okay, Jan.
Yes, so good evening. What do you want me to explain?
David,
Jan,
you take it away, yeah.
I guess this last opening that we saw twice in the games today, I mean, you first, in the first game, you played this move. In the second game, you played this bishop move. Did you have a chat with maybe a friend, a second, in the break?
Yes, yeah, I mean, obviously, so I studied this line, like, I guess, half a year ago for both colors, and yeah, it's just a draw. To my taste, it's a little bit passive, this endgame, but once you know all the moves like h5, h4, f5, and all this move order, which Anish showed, this is just a draw, So, I mean, if you slow down here and play inaccurately, then, perhaps black could be in trouble. In a slight one, but no, I mean, white is trying, let's say. But indeed, was obvious that Anish is very well prepared. So this, I mean, people normally think that Najdorf is much like, he's very fighting, but this one is much like Berlin, So we surely miss queen d4, queen e4, while playing such a game.
Hard to break down, for sure.
Well, Jan, I have to say, it's been a flawless day for you. You played completely rock solid, given no chances to Anish. So are you happy about the day?
Well, first of all, I guess Anish had massive chance in game 1. And he was somewhat better, maybe not that much, but somewhat better for sure in game 3. So I wouldn't say it was anything like solid yet, perhaps we white. But yes, I guess yesterday took a little bit more energy from me, than from Anish, So I guess he's today he was sort of more fresh, but any day this is like two-day match, and tomorrow it's going to be decided. So well, I'm morally satisfied that I had some concerns about how will I play after yesterday's massacre.
You call it a massacre, okay. Well, because you have been a little bit critical, Jan, of sort of the intensity of the tournament. So many games, so many long days. It must be exhausting for you guys to play and then heading into the finals. So are you sort of happy with your performance today?
Well, I didn't lose any games, so that's why yes. And especially what makes me happy is that tomorrow is the last day of the tournament, and then finally I can switch to preparation.
I see.
So, it's of course it's big fun to play here, and since I made it to the finals, I mean, it's also like very okay. I guess I could be proud of myself, but anyway, okay, you know, my goals are slightly different, and okay, they are not only not about this tournament only, and it's been a long run.
So what can you do tomorrow then to get that one win? I mean, if Anish doesn't win any games, what can you do to win that one game to win the tournament overall?
Well, probably I got to study some more Najdorf,
We have it.
And find some improvement on move 45,
Yeah, and on that note, have you been taking a peek at Anish's chessable course on the Najdorf?
Well, actually, I guess I don't, I don't earn that much to pay such a crazy amount for the course, but could be a good idea. But I guess anyway, I won't have enough time to study the whole course until tomorrow. So.
Good idea to rest as well. Yeah, good luck tomorrow on the final day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And I think we're also joined by Anish Giri. Giri, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, have you been listening?
The backstab. Yeah, I mean, I have heard many trash talks, but, hitting it where it hurts into my Najdorf course and calling it expensive, I mean, it's below the belt. I mean, I've seen different things, but this is just below the belt. It's completely unacceptable. Cross the line there. And I think he realizes that, and tomorrow I'll be furious. This is not acceptable.
Oh, okay.
I mean, at a discount, the material, I mean, it's like, I don't know, like $30 or something like this.
Yeah.
While you have to know like how much knowledge and time and effort was put into it. And to call it expensive, I mean, it's just, I just have no words simply for this.
Well, we have enjoyed the Najdorf today, Anish. 4 draws. We were talking about you. I mean, neither of you make any mistakes. You're rock solid. So how do you feel about your performance today?
Well, when I played black, I was very solid. Last game, to be honest, I was prepared really far. Like all the way into the rook bishop endgame, including the h3 f5. It's very important, the whole line, because sometimes, it's based, basically it's all based on these kind of nuances in the endgame sometimes. And this is one line that I don't give in my course because I find it too unrealistic for amateurs or club players. I mean, this will never happen, right, in their games. But in top level chess, it can happen that everybody knows all the way to the end in rare cases. So yeah, that was solid. The other black game was also pretty solid, but in the white games, I think there was excitement, especially in the first one. I was a bit slow, though at some point I thought I will win anyway, but it was never 100% easy. Like he always had some sort of some chances of survival going, and then when I traded a lot of things, even there still. Yeah, like it's not so easy. He's got a passed pawn, so I didn't have any time, and it was not an open goal, but I definitely had to score that one for sure.
And yeah, as you mentioned, Anish, super solid with black, not showing any chinks in your armor, and with white, maybe a couple of small missed opportunities. What will you be doing differently tomorrow with white to maybe take those chances when they come?
I mean, Najdorf is like this Russian roulette, yeah? I mean, I'm going to be taking 4 bullets, but there is one there with, there is one with one with a bullet, basically. So one shot. So, it's Russian roulette, this Najdorf. It's not exactly solid, but we'll see. We'll see. I've also got the Berlin if push comes to shove. And, even in the white games, I mean, he's such a ambitious and quick and... a reckless player that you get and you like end up giving chances with white, with black, even sometimes when you don't expect it, even when you are winning, you can lose, or the way around. Like it's like a little bit of a mayhem against Jan. So I don't really have like a long-term plan, like draw with black, win with white. I don't think that's the case. I think you can win or lose either color. And yes, I've played him a lot of times. It's always complete coin toss. And he does, obviously he shows weakness, of course. I mean, if you only look at his strengths, you think that this is the best player out there. He is faster, more dangerous,
sharper than Magnus, more tactically alert. There's much more aggression coming from him. So if you look only at his pluses, you think he's the best player in the world, but the other participants also compete, so that means that he also has some vulnerabilities. And you see that sometimes he makes quick judgments, sometimes he's unprepared a little bit. It's possible, but we'll see what happens. Only 4 games to go, and it's going to be very exciting.
And finally, Anish, either way, tomorrow we're going to find a winner. One game at some point will end up with the winner. So how will the nerves be for you tomorrow?
The nerves will be fine, but the one thing I can agree with Jan is that definitely a relief that tomorrow is the final day, because I'm unable to check up on my team, what they're doing. I have a suspicion they're lying on sofas, at the cost of that chess federation, watching our games with popcorn and Coke. Occasionally they send me some files, but I'm really not sure. They could be just working 2 hours out of the whole day, and I have no proof. I have to really get back to the training camp, check up on my boys, and make sure things running smoothly, because we gotta prepare for the candidates.
All right. Well, we hope you have some fun on the final day tomorrow. First, before you check on your boys. Thanks for joining, Anish. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good mood on the players.
Yes, certainly some good mood from Anish there. I really did like his sense of humour when he said he needs to get back and check up on his team. Slave drive.
All right.
And I also liked Nepomniachtchi. It was nice to see him in a good mood.
Yep. Definitely. The 2 finalists, they are in a good mood. Nothing decided yet. Let's take a look at the results after the first match in the finals. They played 4 draws. It hasn't been boring. It's been interesting and fantastic chess by 2 fantastic chess players. In form, 4 draws. So they are tied after today. Magnus Carlsen was the winner of the first match in the battle for 3rd place with a fantastic win, especially in that first game against Wesley So. And we are talking about fantastic chess games today, Ivanka.
Yeah, we are talking about the fantastic chess games, and certainly the ones that we've seen, the ones that we like the best. And that is the question of the day. What is your favourite chess game? And the lucky winner, wow, it's an unbelievable prize.
We know it now, actually.
It's 1 year's Chess 24 premium membership, Anish Giri's Sicilian Idol chessable course, 1 year Chessable Pro membership, and if that's not enough, 1 year Magnus Trainer membership. And here before we announce the lucky winner of that magnificent prize brought to you by Opera, well, we're going to show some tweets that we especially liked. Ibrahim Kahil, he says, Mikhail Natal's Knight 6 sacrifices for almost no immediate returns to fully activate his forces and refuse to retreat. And there you can see a picture of Tal with Botvinnik. And we also liked Michael Lendino, 13-year-old Magnus versus Kasparov. Aside from the impressive game, the psychological aspects of the game are second to none. And then finally, Gunther Blauvens, we really like this one. My favourite chess game was against my grandson, Jack, so cute, who usually opens French before and Sicilian after his afternoon nap. I should never have let him start with white. But the lucky winner of our prize today, well, that goes to Emin, who says his favourite chess game, definitely Rajabov against Kasparov, which ended with Raja's victory. The knight sacrifice by Timur was brilliant. Even Kasparov missed that move. Beating Kasparov when he was dominating chess world, just unbelievable.
Wow.
And Rajabov was only 16 years old at the time, so it's absolutely magnificent game.
And has later been a winner in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. He won the first major. Tomorrow we'll decide who wins the second one. So David, who's your favourite?
It's so hard to pick a favourite. They've both been in great form throughout the tournament and also today. I'm going to pick Anish Giri. He was on the front foot for most of those games, especially with white, 2 missed chances. If he can just take 1 chance tomorrow, it should guide him to victory.
Do you think we'll see some of the same, Ivanka, for very, just none of them sort of daring to take very big risks? Or will we see something different tomorrow?
I think we're going to see more of the same, you know, an explosive opening where there will be a lot of action from the start. And I think we might see a few lucky escapes again, and we're going to see blood on the board, that's for sure.
All right, Jovanka said it, blood on the board. Tomorrow is the final day of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. We will find out if Anish Giri or Jan Nepomniachtchi is the winner of the second major in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. So we are looking forward to a dramatic, intense, a fun day of chess. We hope you will be back to join us. We definitely will be back with huge excitement. So see you tomorrow. Bye.